terima kasih. Aprendo cada día algo más. Ayuda a los hermanos. In beginning, I really knew nothing about pecan. In fact, it was an accident. I was actually a banker before we started Cowboy Food. One of my customers at the bank, he was buying and selling pecan to China. So he came to me and said, I don't speak Chinese. Would you like to join me? I jumped on it and I started Cowboy Food. I'm the president of Cowboy Food based in Santa Clara, California.
There is a lot of love that goes into it too. Sometimes we like to say the labor of love in growing and harvesting pecans because you really put your heart and soul into it year round. It is a farm to table product that is the livelihood of all of our growers.
China is a huge country with 1.4 billion people. And when we first started, they didn't know much about pecan. And I looked at this and I thought that was an opportunity for me. So we started shipping pecan to China. Cowboy Food has been in business since 2008. So the revenue continued to grow, and in just the fifth year, our sales hit 16 million. I think the number one question that people ask me is that I have the best product, but how come I cannot sell my product to China? Culture is a big obstacle for most foreigners entering the Chinese market. Language is probably easy because it's hired interpreter and you can get a message across. But culture really takes time. NPDA has been a great partner for Cowboy Food. As a small business owner, you got to do a lot of things by yourself. They provide a lot of services to our company, including government regulation, market data, or market development. They are a group of professionals who are not only willing to help you during a good time, they stay with you during difficult, challenging times like now. I think without NPDA, we wouldn't have accomplished that much today.
For Minority Business Development, Donald Davis Jr.
Good morning. It's so good to see all of you. Welcome to your Department of Commerce. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I could not think of a more fitting way for us to celebrate National Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And so can we give each other a great big round of applause? This is our third third time honoring this wonderful occasion here at the Department of Commerce and MBDA, the Minority Business Development Agency, is just so honored to be helping to work with you all to make sure we get this done and do it right, and that we make this day about fun, Congresswoman, but we also make it about work, because we've got a lot of great things that are going on in our country right now. Thanks to her leadership of our president and our members of Congress. And so we hope today that you'll have fun. We don't want it to be just so rigid. I mean, even though you all in suits and look great, this is about family and about talking and communicating and discussing and maybe even some disagreeing. But we're here to get some work done because we want you to go back to your communities and talk about all of the great things that we're doing in our country and investing, and to make sure that all of our communities benefit from the investments we're making in our country. So that's what today is about, and I have the privilege of being able to be your MC for the day. As I said, this is our third time here honoring our wonderful Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander community. This was started by our then Deputy National Director, Albert Shen, who has become just a great friend and supporter as well to this day. I want to just say again, happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. This month is to celebrate the contributions, the cultures, and ultimately the people of America's AA and NHPI communities. This nation is not whole without all of you. Now, one thing I'd like to mention during any cultural or ethnic heritage month is that communities of color are not a monolith. We are not just one community. You don't hear me say, use acronyms often, because I like to make sure that I give the people of that community their due and not just lump us all together. Minority businesses are not a monolith either. This month we celebrate each and every Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community. Understanding those differences also helps us understand the unique needs of every community. Challenges facing a Korean American-owned business may not be the same challenges facing a Vietnamese American-owned business, or a Hawaiian-owned business versus a Samoan American-owned business. I want you to know that the Minority Business Development Agency appreciates and values what makes you and all of us unique. That understanding guides the work that we do here at our headquarters as well as the business centers that are located across this great country. I'm honored to be joined today by MBDA's newest team member. We are a new but old agency. And that is our first ever Deputy Undersecretary, Ms. Jessica Cavazos. Jessica, please stand. Let's give Ms. Cavazos. Deputy Undersecretary Cavazos is an exceptional leader and a steward of the minority business community. She most recently served as president of the Wisconsin Latino Chamber of Commerce and has dedicated her career to providing access and opportunity to Hispanic businesses and all minority business enterprises throughout the Midwest. In her position, this new position, she's going to help us guide our initiatives, including elevating and strengthening our national network of business centers and grant programs, our technical assistance programs. And so we're so lucky to have her as part of the team. And Congresswoman, I needed a teammate at the top because we got a lot of work to do. And so we tried to find the best, and I think we did. As most of you know, in 2021, President Biden signed into law the Minority Business Development Act. And for the first time in 52 years, it made the Minority Business Development Agency a permanent agency. It did two other things. Yes. It did two other things of note that I want to share with you this morning. First, it gave us the resources, the money, the access, and thanks to the Congresswoman and her colleagues, we have a budget at MBDA to do the work that we need to do to help expand our footprint of technical assistance centers and business support services, the things that our businesses and our communities need to succeed. Number two, the Act gives us the authority to operate on a systemic level, guiding federal policy and breaking down the barriers that many of our families have faced for generations, and many of you continue to face as well. And so we want to use that. The MBDA now is not just a voice, but we are the voice, thanks to the hard work of many of you in this room. So to fulfill this elevated role, the Act gives MBDA the authority to work across business ecosystems in the public and the private sectors to advance minority business. I'm grateful to announce that today we will be signing a historical memorandum of understanding with our partners at National ACE. And so we're going to do that in a few minutes. But before I do that, I do want to introduce someone who has been a champion for America, and who has been a champion especially in our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community. She has been a staunch supporter on the business side of things as well. and been a very strong supporter of the Minority Business Development Agency. And I don't know that I would have gotten to be confirmed without her support and her guidance and her counsel. She is a champion, as I said, just a wonderful leader, and really one of the conscience of the Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honorable Judy Chu.
Happy National Asian Pacific Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, everybody. As chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, I'm honored to join you all for the National AANHPI Business Summit today. Such an exciting opportunity for AANHPI small business leaders to come together, learn from each other, and support one another. So thank you, Executive Director Chi-Ling Tong and National ACE. And our incredible Undersecretary Don Cravens of the Minority Business Development Agency for inviting me to join you this morning. And I am so thrilled to hear the announcement that the Department of Commerce's auditorium will be renamed for trailblazing former Secretary Norm Mineta. Just yesterday, we rang in KPAC's 29th anniversary. It was Norm Mineta that had the vision to start the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or what we call KPAC. And I truly appreciate this timely recognition for our founding chair. So thank you to Secretary Raimondo and everyone at Commerce for making this recognition possible. It's a fitting tribute to a tireless public servant and champion of AANHPI communities. We all know that minority-owned businesses, including those owned by Asian Americans, face unique challenges. There are so many difficulties around access to capital, to language barriers. Over the past few years, these challenges were made even more apparent as we fought a dual pandemic of COVID-19 and anti-Asian hate, which led to the targeting of Asian-owned businesses across the country. These businesses need more support than ever. But it is because of all of you who advocate tirelessly for our communities that we were able to enact meaningful legislation in Congress that directly benefits AANHPI small businesses. Last Congress, I was proud to fight for the establishment through the bipartisan infrastructure law of the permanency of the Minority Business Development Agency. This is a fight that has taken my entire decade of time in Congress, so I feel especially excited about this. And not only did it provide a budget, but also the creation of an undersecretary position to lead the agency, and thank goodness we are so lucky that it is Undersecretary Don Cravens. Now, it's been a difficult 3 years due to COVID-19, but we did provide relief. And I'm proud that we were able to secure the passage of a provision requiring the Small Business Administration to provide the COVID-19 resources in the 10 most utilized languages, including Asian languages. I also worked with my colleagues to extend the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, or IO, and create new programs like the Restaurant Revitalization Fund and the Paycheck Protection Program to help businesses stay afloat and keep their employees on payroll. But then at the beginning of the PPP loan process, we saw that too many were going to the biggest businesses who had pre-existing relationships with major banks. I knew we had to step in because this wasn't fair to small businesses trying to weather this storm. So we in the Small Business Committee created a $60 billion set-aside for community banks and small lenders who are most likely to work with the smallest and most underserved small businesses, including minority-owned businesses. And I'm pleased to say that the strategy worked. In fact, the small banks and mission-based lenders eligible for these set-asides have now processed the majority of PPP loans and total dollars. All these pandemic programs were crucial to helping AAPI businesses stay afloat during the pandemic. But now we must look ahead. And we know that one of the greatest challenges for small businesses is lack of access to capital. We know that it's difficult for some small businesses in the AANHPI community to even access the SBA's most popular loan program, which is the 7A program, due to a number of factors, including lack of credit history. And so there is a program of the SBA called the Community Advantage Program, which is able to loan to these underserved populations. And the greatest challenge that we've had is to be able to make this successful Community Advantage Program permanent. But I am happy to say I introduced a bill to do just that, to make this permanent so that more of these underserved businesses could get the loans and technical assistance they needed. But also the Biden administration finalized a rule at the SBA that will create a new Community Advantage license for these small business lending companies that will allow this program to gain a permanent status. So we are making progress on this front. I also want to say that representation of our communities in private sector leadership is also a powerful tool to make sure our diverse perspectives are heard and that we have a seat at the table. Despite the fact that we, AANHPIs, represent 12% of the U.S. professional workforce, Asian Americans only comprise about 4% of the directors of Fortune 1000 companies. And Asian American professionals are the least likely racial group to be promoted into management. That's why in 2016, KPAC partnered with National ACE to send individual letters to America's Fortune 100 CEOs, asking them for data about AAPI senior management, board membership, and support of the AANHPI communities. Now, we got a few responses, but what we know that there was enormous impact. We know that these companies felt pressure to diversify and include the AAPIs in all these different levels. We know that because they mentioned it to us. Just yesterday, a corporation CEO said, when we saw these letters, it created so much pressure on us, and we felt that we had to respond. So we know it made an impact, but you know what? It's been 7 years since we did that. It's time to do it again. So I'm proud to announce that we again are working with National ACE to send another round of letters very soon to ask what these corporations are doing to include Asian Americans in upper management roles. And finally, let's talk about the last 3 years of anti-Asian hate, where we've had 11,500 anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents. This is why we worked hand in hand with many of you to create the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, and we're so gratified when President Biden signed it into law. We continue to work with the Department of Justice to monitor its implementation. And knowing that there is so much ignorance out there about Asian, American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander history, we also had an AAPI museum study bill to create the first national museum dedicated to Asian Pacific American history. This was authored by our Congress member, Grace Meng, and I'm so proud to say it was signed into law by President Biden. But there is even more exciting news. This museum creation study bill also creates a commission. And there are 8 appointees. And guess who was announced just yesterday as one of the commissioners for this effort? Your very own National ACE leader, Chile Tom. I am just so immensely proud of her because I know she'll do such a fantastic job and that we can show the world that Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander history is American history. Well, we can only achieve these successes because we have been able to work together. So thank you to National ACE and NBDA for having me here today. Thank you because we need to make our AANHPI entrepreneurs as successful as possible. I'm truly inspired by the tireless work of everybody here, and I look forward to continued work together. Again, to all of you, happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
All right, great. All right, at this time, we are going to, as the Congresswoman talked about working together, we are going to sign a memorandum of understanding. This is going to help us work together so that we can make sure that our National Asian Pacific Islander community and MBDA are working closer together. We're going to sign an MOU today between MBDA and National ACE. This is going to be a formal agreement between our two organizations to work together and to leverage each other's strengths to better serve the minority business community, and in particular, the AANHPI business communities. This gives the community a greater voice and will make both our organizations' outreach and initiatives more effective and intentional. We are entering into this MOU with the understanding that no one organization can touch every community. It is MBDA's mission to be a resource to any and every minority-owned business that wants or needs our help. We can't do that without the hard work and the talent of organizations like National ACE. I'm excited, and I hope you are all excited as well, for what this strategic alliance is going to produce. So without further ado, allow me to introduce the board chair of the National ACE, Ms. Tia Suzuki, to say a few words, and then she and her leadership will join me on stage so we can sign this memorandum of understanding. Tia?
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Cravens. It's such an honor for me to be here with all of you today. As I look out into the audience, I see some familiar faces. It is a special day for me to take part in this. I get the honor of serving as the board chair for National ACE, but I've come a long way to get here. I was born in Cambodia, a survivor of the Cambodian genocide, and came as an 8-year-old. And it's really wonderful to be here in Washington, D.C. with all of you celebrating our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders Heritage Month. This summit provides a forum to celebrate this Heritage Month, as well as celebrating business successes, and also addresses issues facing our community across the nation in the areas of contracts, capital, and global markets. Today also provides an opportunity for power networking amongst business owners, professionals, advocates, government agency representatives, as well as corporate leaders. National ACE uplifts, empowers, and equips Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander small businesses to remain both resilient and also grow. Next, we have a video to share on how National ACE helps our business community in this work. Please roll the video.
United States. More than 20 million live in the U.S. and have become a powerful economic force. 2.5 million AAPI-owned small businesses generate over $800 billion in annual GDP. AAPI businesses employ over 5 million people with a collective buying power of over $1 trillion a year. When a pandemic collides with discrimination, our AAPI small businesses were impacted the hardest. From health to economics to livelihood, some businesses survived, but sadly, many mom-and-pop stores did not. According to National ACE's 2022 survey, almost half of AAPI business owners would not be able to fund an unplanned $5,000 business expense. Between March 2020 and March 2022, more than 11,500 incidents of anti-Asian hate were reported, 27% of which occurred at a place of business.
It is undeniable. We've witnessed a rising tide of racist hate against people of Asian descent in this country. And it's a tide that must be named, countered, and reversed.
Today, our AAPI small businesses are still struggling to recover from the pandemic. From supply chain disruptions to severe inflation, from labor shortages to ongoing discrimination, the fight continues. With the help of National ACE, Asian American entrepreneurs continue to take their fight to the streets, to the White House, and to the halls of Congress.
The AANHPI community has faced an uphill fight the last couple of years due to COVID and the blight of racism. But today, the resiliency of this community has never been clearer, and the work that you and so many others are undertaking could not be more critical.
The spirit of AAPI entrepreneurship and resilience continues to persevere.
Our administration will continue to fight to make sure that all members of the AA and NHPI community have the opportunity to succeed and to thrive.
While there's still much work to be done, National ACE continues to be a champion for small businesses by providing grant programs for AAPI entrepreneurs. Through corporate partnerships, National ACE has dispensed over $6.5 million in grant awards to AAPI small businesses in all 50 states and Washington, D.C.
For Dallas-Fort Worth to receive this fund, the women that we are training to be community cooks for Great Red Reporters have been tremendous. They have been able to utilize this and really further their culinary education and uplift their families, and it's a huge investment to the communities. Thank you, National ACE, for all that you do. We love you.
National ACE assisted over 60,000 businesses and entrepreneurs through hundreds of virtual trainings, webinars, and workshops to help them stay strong and resilient during the pandemic. National ACE also launched the AAPI Strong Small Business Roundtable Series, connecting small business owners with community advocates, corporate leaders, and government officials to address the needs of AAPI businesses across the country. Over 25,000 AAPI businesses have benefited from National ACE programs on access to capital, business recovery and resiliency, and business and cultural sensitivity trainings. Alone, we can do so little. But together, we can do so much for the future success of our AAPI business communities.
And that is why National ACE's work is so important and urgent. By supporting our community's businesses and business owners, you are helping to address all of these systemic imbalances.
I would like to commend National ACE's great efforts, led by President and CEO Chilling Tom, to work with over 100 AAPI affiliate chambers and partners to help AAPI small business owners.
And we are proud to be strong partners of National ACE. Thank you so much for showing up to learn so that we all belong, so all businesses thrive.
National ACE gives thanks to the generous organizations and individuals who stand by the AAPI community in building a more equitable future. We look forward to continuing this work with our valued partners and fellow advocates. Together, we are AAPI Strong.
MOU is both historical as well as significant. So please help me welcome our CEO, Chilling Tom, Undersecretary Cravens, presidents of the different chambers, as well as our National ACE Board of Directors on stage.
All right, that was great. Now we're gonna do one more commemoration, and then our boss is gonna lead us into this, gonna begin some work for us to do today. But it is my honor now to introduce a group of leaders to commemorate a great man, the late Secretary Norman Mineta. Secretary Mineta passed away last year and left behind a lasting legacy as a San Jose mayor and congressman, and most notably as the first person of East Asian descent to serve as a U.S. Cabinet Secretary for both President Clinton and President George W. Bush. He is most known for his tenure as Transportation Secretary under President Bush, but he also served as President Clinton's Commerce Secretary during his final year in office. So he's Commerce family. I'd even say he's Commerce royalty, folks. Now, we have an outstanding group of leaders. You heard from Congresswoman Chu, who began the commemoration. But we've got some other outstanding leaders who are here to say a few words about Secretary Mineta's life and legacy, including Crystal Kahai, the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on AANHPI Affairs, and others who I will introduce as they come up. But first, it is my honor to introduce to you all our second in command at the U.S. Department of Commerce. He really is our Chief Operating Officer here at our department. He oversees the department's 47,000 employees and who, alongside Secretary Gina Raimondo, keeps commerce running smoothly and on course. Deputy Secretary Graves has been a champion of the Minority Business Development Agency since day one, and I would even argue before day one. I've known Don, Deputy Secretary Graves, now for over 10 years, and worked with him in a past life when he worked for the Treasury Department. And he's always been the same guy, very committed to making sure that all Americans have an opportunity to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, but acknowledging that all of us don't always have boots and don't always have straps. That's the kind of man he is, and we could not do the work of MBDA without him. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Deputy Secretary of Commerce, Don Graves.
Well, thank you very much, Undersecretary Cravens, Don, our fellow Don. Hello, everyone. It is really fantastic to see this auditorium with these many faces filling this space up. Happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It is an absolute honor for me to be here at MBDA's National AA and HPI Business Summit. This event is so important to us, and we are grateful for the Undersecretary, for the entire team at MBDA, for putting this all together, but most importantly, to create the type of environment that will allow so many AA and NHPI businesses, owned businesses, and other businesses all across the country to continue to thrive going forward. I was especially pleased to be joined today by Congresswoman Chu, by Erica Moritsuru from the White House, and Crystal Kahai from the White House Initiative. Your trailblazing work for the AA and NHPI communities continues to inspire me, but beyond me, an entire nation. Today is an historic day here at the Commerce Department, as the Undersecretary mentioned, as we celebrate and honor the legacy of Secretary Norman Mineta. He is and will always be an inspiration to those of us who work in commerce, as he is for people all over this country, especially those in the Asian American community. As the Undersecretary said, he was nominated by President Clinton as the first Asian American to not only serve as Secretary of Commerce, but to hold a cabinet position in any presidential administration. He later continued his distinguished career, as you all know, in public service as the Secretary of Transportation during the George W. Bush administration. His journey hits home if you take the time to actually understand what he went through in his life and what so many folks have faced in this country. From an internment camp to Congress, with many steps in between, He's an inspiration to all Americans, and in many ways, it's emblematic of the struggle of generations of Asian Americans and other communities of color to secure the American dream, overcoming discrimination, answering the call to serve, and charting a path for generations that would follow. Throughout his life of service, especially here at the Commerce Department, Secretary Mineta became a trailblazer for expanding economic opportunity, not just for some Americans, but for all Americans, for all communities. And he showed us an example of what is possible, especially for Asian Americans. And every day, and I mean this, every day I walk by his portrait. It hangs right outside of my office. And I'm reminded of his legacy and the part that I play, and that we all play, in building a more prosperous country for all our communities, in particular, those that have been forgotten, those that have been underserved. I'm also reminded, especially during this May Heritage Month, of the immeasurable ways that the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities contributed throughout our country. It's why I'm so proud of this administration's efforts, including ensuring that Asian Americans are represented at every level of government, every single level, from top to bottom. The passage of the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which the President signed into law, and the first ever national strategy to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities. And I'm also very proud that the Commerce Department has made equity central to everything that we do, from our industrial strategy, our investments such as CHIPS, to our export competitiveness, and our efforts to enhance access to capital for entrepreneurs of color. And it's why I'm also proud to make this announcement, though the Congresswoman leaked it a little while ago. We at the Department of Commerce are thrilled to announce that the Herbert C. Hoover Building Auditorium, place where we sit or stand today, will be named in honor of former Secretary Norman Mineta. I remember when the idea was brought to me for this dedication and how deeply it touched me. To think that for every generation that comes forth, when they come into this building to talk about commerce, to speak from this stage, they will have to recognize Norman Mineta and everything that he did for this country and what he's done to uplift so many communities all across this country. I know how much this honor means to the Mineta family, and it speaks volumes that this effort wasn't something that one of us dreamed up. It was driven by my colleagues here at the department, spearheaded by the AANHPI Employee Resource Group here at the Commerce Department, along with so many others. This is driven by the community, and I think that they deserve a whole lot of credit for making sure that their voice is continued to be represented every time someone comes into the Department of Commerce. We hope that this dedication will serve as a reminder to Commerce employees, to guests of Commerce, both now and in the future, of Secretary Mineta's significant contributions to the department, to the community, and to the country he served. Once again, a very heartfelt thank you to everyone for being here. Now, I am absolutely pleased to hand it over to a colleague and another champion for the AA and NHPI communities, Crystal Kai, the White House Initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Graves. Aloha kako, good morning, everyone, and happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. As the Executive Director of both the White House Initiative and the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, it is an honor to be here with you today as we kick off this year's AA and NHPI Business Summit. I want to start off by thanking Deputy Secretary Graves and Undersecretary Cravens, along with our good friends with National ACE, including Shuling Tong and Tier Suzuki, for hosting today's event. Convenings like this play a critical role in supporting the growth and sustainability of AA and NHPI businesses and entrepreneurs. And I am deeply grateful to each and every one of you here today for the important work you do as pillars in our community and as small business owners and entrepreneurs who serve as the backbone of our economy. After nearly 3 years of being unable to gather in person, it's hard to believe what a jam-packed AANHPI Heritage Month it's been. In fact, I know many of you have made multiple trips back and forth to DC over the past few weeks. And I want to thank National ACE in particular for being a part of our historic White House AANHPI Forum on May 3rd with the Vice President, where we had over 1,300 guests attend in person and hundreds of thousands of viewers online for the largest AANHPI Heritage Month celebration ever hosted by any presidential administration in history. And it's just one of many examples of how far our community has come. This year's AANHPI Heritage Month has also been bittersweet as we mark the 1-year anniversary of the passing of a true trailblazer and icon in our community, the late Secretary Norman Y. Mineta. As our esteemed speakers have already noted, Secretary Mineta was many things. The first Asian American in history ever appointed to a presidential cabinet, an extraordinary public servant, and a giant who left an indelible mark on American history. Among his numerous accomplishments were the creation of several AANHPI institutions that remain an enduring part of his legacy, including the formation of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, and I know you heard from Congresswoman Judy Chu earlier today, but as well as our very own White House Initiative and President's Advisory Commission, where Secretary Mineta served as the inaugural chair of both entities when they were first created under the Clinton administration in 1999. So I want to thank the Department of Commerce for its announcement today to pay tribute to Secretary Mineta with the tremendous honor of naming this very auditorium after him. We at the White House Initiative strive to continue Secretary Mineta's spirit of service in the work we do each and every day to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for AANHPI communities all across the country. In less than 2 years, the White House Initiative has driven an ambitious whole-of-government agenda to fuel economic equity and advance opportunities for AA and NHPI workers, businesses, and families. Among our top priorities have been efforts to address the rising anti-Asian hate, prioritize data disaggregation, promote language access, and ensure an equitable COVID-19 recovery. In fact, at the start of this year, we released the first ever national strategy to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for AA and NHPI communities that details our whole-of-government approach to addressing barriers impacting our communities, including efforts to improve interagency policymaking, program development, and outreach. And we've also been busy traveling across the country to meet with many of you through engagements we are hosting in different cities all across the country to connect local communities with federal resources. So much of this work would not be possible without National ACE. And many of you in this room who helped our White House Initiative and the Small Business Administration to launch earlier this year a series of regional economic summits to ensure that our local communities, our businesses, our entrepreneurs have access to capital and to the resources that they need to thrive. But we know that our work is not finished. And as the President stated during his State of the Union address, we are doing everything we can to finish the job. So thank you all for all that you are doing in partnership with us to ensure our diverse and vibrant communities are visible together. We know that when AA and NHPI businesses and entrepreneurs thrive, our country thrives. And we cannot do this work without you. So mahalo nui loa, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Special Assistant to the President and AA and NHPI Senior Liaison, Erica Mortsu.
Good morning. Ni hao. Hakaday. To those of you who are zooming in because we're very, very far away and you guys might actually be in a different time zone on a different day. Aloha. Aloha. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. The announcement to name this auditorium in honor of Secretary Norman Y. Mineta while being here with you and leaders in the audience and abroad and overseas and online embodies the sense of community and uplifting Secretary Mineta, our uncle, and everything that you stood for. Now, I grew up in Hawaii, round and round the core concept of something we say, Okage Samade, and it actually doesn't matter whether you speak Japanese, what your ethnicity is, what your racial background is, what your heritage. This is something that I wish was a universal principle. It means I am who I am because of you. And for all of us, we are who we are because of Secretary Mineta, Uncle Norm. And it takes a village to raise each and every one of us. And I was honored to have the great leadership of Norman and Lila to help set an example and mentor me. And when I think of Secretary Mineta, I don't just think of the historic moments in his life that people speak about, including former presidents. I also think about his impact on history, but also as the child of the Heart Mountain incarceration camp in Wyoming, who defied all odds and became Secretary Norman Mineta. I think of the family man who loved David Stewart and the grandbabies who I saw at Heart Mountain last summer at the pilgrimage, the first pilgrimage that we held without him, and how he always centered and named his family and his community as a passion for what he did and why. Secretary Mineta led by example through true friendship, honesty, loyalty, humor, fairness, trust, and courage. And Secretary Mineta was a rare person, always trying to encourage people to be the best they could be and investing in our shared future by coaching and mentoring the next generation. There are many of us here who've been touched by his leadership and his openness to help his community, our community. And if you did not have the fortune of having him in your life, please know that your lives in our country is better for having him in our world. So in this auditorium, which will soon bear his name, let us honor his optimism and persistence to making the world a better place. I ask you to say, doing the right thing. And in this spirit, because Okage Samade, Uncle Norm, it is my honor to introduce a man and a leader who follows the best tradition that he said of sacrifice, service, and leadership. Flower Saeed, Special Representative Commercial for Business and Affairs, Bureau of Economic and Business Affairs at the Department of State, advances trade, commercial and economic policies for American workers and the middle class to help create well-paying jobs. Serving the State Department's Bureau of Economic and Business Affairs, Special Representative Saeed leads efforts to support the export activities of U.S. companies through commercial advocacy and to create a level playing field for United States companies overseas. He draws from his experience as an entrepreneur and a public servant who has advocated for inclusive entrepreneurship at the federal and state level. He's an entrepreneurial career himself, spanning over 2 decades, and has built global businesses that are driving major impacts across technology, healthcare, and business services. Special Representative Saeed has driven civic efforts at the federal and state level in addition to the global work in business and entrepreneurship. In the Obama administration, he played an active role in promoting the State Department's global entrepreneurship program and connecting Silicon Valley innovators with emerging entrepreneurial ecosystems from South Asia to the Middle East and Turkey. As the founding chair of California Entrepreneurship Task Force with Governor Newsom's Office of Business and Economic Development, Mr. Saeed drove inclusive entrepreneurship, building coastal regions with the state's rural heartland, and helped small businesses struggling with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. He also served as President of Obama's White House Commission on Asian American Pacific Founders. Takes the Rothschild that he's wearing. Zoom in on that. And he also chaired the White House Initiative on AANHPI's economic growth. And in that role, he led the administration's engagement with small businesses across the United States after the passage of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. He served as liaison with Small Business Administration, the Department of Commerce, on federal initiatives such as the President's Export Orders. On a personal note, so Laura and I met many years ago. He doesn't remember, but I do have a photograph, which is not on the screen, but we really got to know each other since his nomination to be the highest ranking Muslim officials in the Biden Harris administration, steward of the Small Business Administration Programming and Innovation as the Deputy Administrator of SBA. And that nomination is still pending. But that is his mana. That is the power of space. It's also what we would say in Hawaii, it's his kuleana. Against all odds, persisting with courage and belief in, as Secretary Mineta would say, doing the right thing. Delaware is a personal and professional inspiration to me and so many others in our community and in the corporate world worldwide. And to quote again, our beloved Secretary Mineta, as we climb up the ladder, we need to reach back down and help someone else up in our place. Delaware does this every day on behalf of our nation's small businesses, through political commercial diplomacy, and for our AANHPI and AANHPI leaders, young and old. Friends, please help me in welcoming to the podium for his keynote address, Special Representative Delaware City.
Thank you, Erica. That was just so incredibly generous and kind of you. Thank you so much, and thank you for all you do every single day to support our communities. Representative Thomas, Grace, my friend, AC leadership, Chilling, thank you so much for having me. Before I talk about commercial diplomacy, my role and how you all can help us, I also want to spend a couple minutes on honoring the great man, I first met him in 2012 at a big event in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had conversations about service. I was running a business at the time, and those conversations have stayed with me. Someone who spent so much time in the area, obviously we have benefited from his leadership in San Jose and the greater region. But I'll tell you what has stayed with me, and with, if I may say, millions of people in this country, is his leadership after the tragic attacks of 9/11. As Transportation Secretary, his heartfelt leadership and discussions with President Bush was the reason that President Bush remarked, we don't want to happen here what happened in North in 1942. And the rights of so many Arab Americans and Muslim Americans were protected at a very, very difficult time. Folks, that's leadership. That in the most darkest time, we make sure that we're protecting everybody. And I certainly hope that we all can find that courage and that boldness as leaders as we carry our duties, whether in government or in private sector. So again, thank you for having me. Now, over to commercial diplomacy. I have the privilege of driving commercial diplomacy at the State Department. So I'm going to share with you what that means and what our focus is. Now, first of all, our lens is more geostrategic. We work with our colleagues in the Commerce Department and others across the economic agencies every single day to make sure that the U.S. private sectors, aspiring entrepreneurs, many of you in the room, have a level playing field to compete and win in the world. And here's why it's so much more important now than it was before. We are in a much more competitive place. And we have to make sure that we are leveling the playing field for all our businesses to compete. Someone who's built businesses, and I'm an entrepreneur. I say I'm an entrepreneur because once you're an entrepreneur, you always am an entrepreneur. I think our private sector is a force for good. We get to deploy our private sector as one of our most strategic assets to help move the world forward. Our innovators, our entrepreneurs have changed the world for the better. And we should never forget that is, again, a key pillar of our mission. And that's why we work so hard to make sure that you all have all the resources and support we need to succeed. You know, there are 1,500 economic officers in the State Department. 1,500. In more than 200 missions and embassies around the world, our ambassadors are also our chief commercial officers. So we work hand in glove with our foreign service colleagues to make sure that you have the resources that you need to build your business. Program like Direct Line, and that way we connect our ambassadors with investors around the country to drive investment in foreign countries. Our important deal team initiative that we formed under President Trump, which we have built upon. We mentioned a SWAT team to support important deals that are geostrategic for our country. Now I visited 17 countries in 15 months, And I have personally had the privilege to see and make sure that we are pushing forward for a better business environment, protection of IP, making sure that when it comes to emerging tech standards, AI, the world is adopting US standards, and we get to own that sandbox. So that's the work of commercial policy. Now, it comes at a moment, and this meeting comes at a moment that frankly is a moment that is truly extraordinary for the world. We are still recovering from the pandemic's effects. And I see this in every country that I visit, and obviously my communities all over the country here. Second, climate change. I was in Seattle day before yesterday. It was 90 degrees in Seattle. This is May, and I haven't seen, having been the West for 30 years, this kind of extreme weather so early. In my home state, California, we for almost a decade had drought, and then we had slight reverse in the fall. And we see again the effect of climate change around the world. Again, once in a generation phenomenon. Third, war in Europe. I joined the State Department 2 weeks before Putin attacked. And so much of our work over the past 15 months at State has been very consumed by supporting the people of Ukraine. Obviously, you've seen the death and destruction in Ukraine. But we also know that Ukraine has had, the war in Ukraine has had a destabilizing effect all over the world. In almost every single country I've visited, food insecurity, energy insecurity, inflation. These are all challenges that are stemming from this conflict that is showing no sign of slowing. Now, when you look at these challenges, again, they're once in a generation, almost once in 100 years. Our response as a people, as a response to the nation, has to be equally vigorous. And I'm proud to say, as a member of the administration, that the President has led the way. When you look at the industrial policy we've grown in the last 1 year, between the IRA and the Chips and Science Act, these are once in a generation industrial policy, the likes of which we haven't seen since the New Deal. One stat that I've shared with you, and I'm sure many of you track, over the last 14 months, we have seen $205 billion worth of new investment that is coming for large-scale projects in the country. A third of it from foreign sources that is helping us build this in the future. And so many of our colleagues are helping ensure that. For perspective, that is 20 times the figure in 2019. 20 times. So we're responding to this extraordinary moment with some extraordinary response at the federal and the state and local level. We're building in this in the future. I was in Reno, Nevada, as part of my travel to showcase some innovation in the US and how we can help some of the one of those type of global challenges. In Reno, around Reno, we are building lithium loop. Within 300 miles in northern Nevada, we will be able to extract, process lithium, build lithium-ion batteries, deliver them to Tesla's Gigafactory just not too far, recycle, all within 300 miles of the region, and thanks in big part because the IRA funding is helping us invest in that region. And of course that will diversify, that will make our supply chain more resilient and a critical resource. Again, that's the kind of innovation that's taking place across the country, building new investments, because we are responding to this moment with incredible resources. On a multilateral platform, let me say this. I have this privilege, obviously, in the state, in the role. We have been rebuilding our lives around the world. One event that is of interest to you is APEC. This year, we get to host APEC for the first time since 2011. 21 nation economies have come together, including Taiwan. This week and next week, we're hosting in Detroit. The final meeting will be in San Francisco. I hope many of you will be engaging with APEC. Again, it's a terrific platform. So you look at these initiatives, again, to help us form coalitions around the world to respond to this moment. Now, you all have a role to play here as well. And I'm going to leave you with those couple of asks today. As I mentioned, we don't get to do this alone in government and just in the resources of federal and state and local. One of our most critical resources, youth, especially those of you who are aspiring entrepreneurs. One thing I've observed is that when I travel, and I often get to ask this question to our counterparts, what can we do better? And I hear this consistent, your businesses, your entrepreneurs have to show up. Have to show up in Africa. Have to show up here in Southeast Asia. We like to work with you. We want to work with you, but they have to be more aggressive. And frankly, as someone who has hustled in life as an entrepreneur, that's interesting to hear that we are told that we're going to cost them more. But here's the reason why. Let me say this bluntly. When it comes to business, we are no longer the only game in town. We have competition. We have big competitors, but we also compete with our friends and allies. So it's critical that as we think about building a business, please think about going global early. Putting some teams there, traveling, spending time. We have to build relationships. We know how to do it, and we do it very, very well. That's number one. And secondly, and this is something that's very near and dear to my heart, we are a large community of Asian Americans that are in how I am Chris Americans. But it's not, not everybody has access, equal access to networks and resources and opportunity. Part of our job is to help ensure, in the spirit of the radio that we're on, is that others are also finding this access. I'm the junior of Texas, and I met with this incredible AAPI woman entrepreneur. She's building a healthcare startup using adult stem cell treatment. And I haven't seen anything like this before. I used to be a healthcare AI entrepreneur for the administration. I want to make sure people like her are also in this room. And that's something we need to do because we want to enable the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs to help us tackle these global challenges. So again, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, now what I'd like to do is introduce our next session. We're going to bring our Deputy Secretary Graves back up to the stage, and he is going to lead a fireside chat with two giants of the minority business and AANHPI communities. As I said earlier, we're so grateful about the MOU we just signed with National ACE and Chilling Tong and her leadership. She has just been such a tremendous partner. So I'm going to ask her to join Deputy Secretary Graves. And I'm also very honored and so happy to see my dear friend, Ying McGuire, who serves as the President and CEO of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And so Don's got his hands full this morning. But ladies, gentlemen, please come to the stage for this wonderful fireside chat. Now give them a round of applause.
Your path has been, both of your paths have been very interesting. What has led you to taking on this role? I guess it's not so new anymore, but as leading it at SBC, what's got you to this point? What do you see as the biggest challenges, and what keeps you going every single day?
Thank you. What an honor to share the stage with two leaders that I'm really a big fan of both of you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. So my path to NMSDC began in many ways. When I arrived in the U.S. with nothing but one suitcase and $1,000 in my pocket and very little English. I still speak English today, by the way. But I had a promise that I held in my heart, and that was American dream. I imagined when I arrived in the U.S. what would manifest as a reality later. Higher education, a great career with corporate America. I was with Dell Technologies for 11 years. An opportunity to become an entrepreneur. So I was actually MBE, Asian American owned business. I many of you for 11 years, and we actually received MBDA Technology Firm of the Year a few years ago. And the freedom to speak and vote, sometimes we take for granted. And the opportunity to serve on nonprofit boards, always give back. And an opportunity to serve as an advisor to government agencies. Actually, the first government advisory role was with the U.S. Department of Commerce. I served on the U.S. Investment Advisory Council under Secretary Pritzker. What an honor. And my American dream included the 2 beautiful children who are finally off my payroll. So I spent 20-some years in technology, and in 2020, after living through the pandemic, and after witnessing the outcry of racial injustice and anti-AAPI hate crimes, my vantage point for America's social economic state drastically changed. And that changed my career path. So I was thinking, what do I need to do to drive impact? So the making money was no longer a priority. And I was very fortunate when MSDC search firm called me and said, would you consider this role? To be the first AAPI CEO of this 50-year-old organization. So it was incredible honor that to take this position. And so you asked some of the challenges. Challenges as an organization, we've been around for 50 years. So we actually were created in 1972 as a direct result of President Nixon's executive order for racial equity. NVDA has been a great partner for many, many years. And then the challenge is when you, what got us here for the last 50 years will not get us there for the next 50 years. So we have to transform. And so how do you get the whole network? We serve Black and Hispanic, AAPI, Native American. We have 1,700 corporate members. We have tens of thousands certified MBEs and many partners. How do we get the whole network march towards the same direction for a same mission, which is to grow MBEs and create generational wealth in the communities of color? But we're doing that. We have our corporate members. Yeah, I see Wells Fargo here. They're being extremely supportive of us. So we're doing it.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. Let me ask the same question to you. What's led you to your pathway to be the CEO of National ACE, and what have you had to overcome to get there?
Well, John, thank you so much. First of all, I really want to applaud your leadership and Undersecretary Don Craven's leadership. You are amazing. Having watched your action, the Commerce has been doing such a great job.
I'll give you the $10.
I'm just so proud to represent 2.65 million AAPI small business owners, employ about 5.1 million people. And most importantly, we have 120 affiliate AAPI chamber and partners. Many of the presidents are here. They're the one may need to decide to take over this position. And I like to talk professionally and personally. This is the beauty when I start my public service career for federal agency. I was a Deputy Assistant Secretary at the International Trade Administration. My job is to help American companies to sell products overseas and also make sure our trading partners comply with bilateral, multilateral trade agreements with the United States. A lot of big companies, they can do it very, very well. But small business, they just cannot do that. So I just feel it's my obligation to continue my journey. There are so many good things you have been doing, as I say. You just had very successful Select USA conference. It's so wonderful you're bringing small business owners to share with them, for this kind of information. And then I moved to MBDA. I just tell you, I love MBDA. I have worked so many different agencies. MBDA is my most favorite. I still feel I'm part of family. I still see many good workers there, and I know there's so many good workers coming. And for MBDA, it's the only federal agency. The mission is designated to help minority business. So that's why I think I want to continue my journey after my MBDA time. And for personal reasons, as everybody mentioned about anti-AAPI hate, but that happened to me 30 years ago. I remember when I came to California, I was so proud of the contribution of Asian American community. And the people speak to my face. New immigrants take advantage of our social security system. When I talk with people about crime, they say, do you know Southeast Asian refugees bring crime to the United States? So that's why it hurts me so badly. I think we're here, we're so quiet, we just want to do our work. Why can't you have a room for us? And I realize if you're not at the table, you are on the name. So therefore, I'm so happy I have so many alliances here together. We work together. And I also have to tell you, the history of solidarity between Black community and the Asian community is very, very good. There's so much we have to learn from the past, from Black community, and there's so many things we can learn from them too.
That is such an important last point that you made. The ways that communities all across this country have been able to lift up one another. And I've not told this story before. Some people have heard that about my ancestors and their connection to the land we sit in today. My 3 times great grandfather, was a caterer and a hotelier. The first big client that he had for his catering business actually happened to be the very first Japanese delegation to the United States. So you talk about these communities lifting up one another. AANHPI community lifting up a Black man who didn't have much because his parents were slaves, and they could have chosen any company to serve their delegation and host them, and they chose this Black man. So it goes a long ways back, and we're going to continue today. But you both talked about how things are different today than they were even a few years ago. So we have to have new approaches. What are you seeing from local chambers, from your local affiliates all across the country, and what their businesses are seeing, the barriers that they're facing, and the opportunities that we have going forward to help them to create jobs and grow and create economic opportunity?
Yeah, so we have 23 affiliates across the United States and serving tens of thousands certified MDs. Any of you are certified with National Minority Supply Development Council? Only a few hands? Okay, when I walk out today, all of you need to come to this. So, thank you. So many barriers and many opportunities. One of the things is how do we help small businesses to scale? And we're going to have very frank and authentic discussion right here. Many of our MBEs, they do business with federal government and state local government. One of the barriers actually came from the government, which is small business size standards. And so what happened, as many of you know, small business size standards were established in 1957 when our economy was $400 billion. And today's $26 trillion economy. And so the small business size standards have not kept up the growth of the economy, not even with inflation. So what happened is, the small business, let's say in construction engineering, when they can participate $559 billion federal government spend allocated for small business, and then when they grow out of their revenue ceiling, let's say it's 40 million, they no longer qualify to participate in small business deals. And now they have to compete with like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and $50 billion company. How do you do that? And so it become like, we call it valley of death. And so how do we cross the valley of death? It's really important to address. And in our community, the MSDC community, we don't talk about problems without solution. So one of our MDEs took it upon herself and gathered 13 small businesses in construction engineering. We're putting on the table a success bill. In the success bill, basically, we're asking policymakers to extend small businesses, their status, 7 years after they reach the revenue ceiling, allow them to grow into 100 million, 500 million, 50 billion, hopefully. So then they can compete with the large business. So how do you create that middle class through policy, right? And the second area, Congressman Judy Chu earlier talked about access to capital, and it's always an issue. You know, we start to see minority-owned businesses, $50 million company buy $300 million company. That's kind of a mission we should have, and they require capital. So last week, I'm going to bring a solution here. Okay, so last week in Miami, NMSDC had our second annual minority business economic forum. McKinsey team called the Davos for minority-owned businesses. We launched a capital manager program. And so what we're doing is we're really putting together a complete list of minority-owned investment firms or investment firms with focus on investing in minority-owned businesses, and not only the capital, but service providers, teach you how to do it. And so we're putting together this. Our next step is really start to connect them through technology. Build AI system to connect them with all of you. And so check us out on the Capital Manager Program. I'm going to leave some time for Chilene to talk about areas.
Thank you. You have heard from Erica and also Crystal that last year we had developed about 20 roundtables throughout the country. And this year we'll do the same thing, but some of them is partnered with the White House Initiative on AANHPI, on Economic Summit. And during those conferences, we had state, federal, and local officials, and also corporate partners, many of them here, to share the program resources to the small business owner, and also hear the concern and issues from them. Again, you're right, access to capital is always the number one issue. And contracting opportunities, access to technology, information, and also they are so frustrated with regulation and the law. They just do not understand. Language barrier is always very important for us. But talking about opportunity, John, again, I'm not asking for that $10, but I just want to tell you, because the Biden-Harris administration has so many good legislation, like infrastructure bill, can help people, small business, to get a contracting opportunity. CHIPS Act will sustain the supply chain, strengthen the supply chains, and also MBDA's capital readiness program. Think about that will help, to launch more business and underserved community. So there are so many great opportunities. But most importantly, make us excited is our next generation. We have next generation, they have 10 chapters all over the country. We have John, Kevin, they're all here, and they're the one is our hope.
Build on that here. The AANHPI community has done so much to advance economic growth and opportunity in this country, and it doesn't get told enough. I wonder if you could just tell us about some of the leaders in your networks that are driving economic hope and opportunity all across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Asian American business community has the highest rate of entrepreneurship. It's 10%, more than the national average. And many of our leaders here, I will tell you, one of our founding member, Bill Imada, and he has IW Group, and he hired about 60 people. And we have Karen Lee, she used to be an eye doctor. she decided to have an engineer firm. She hired 40 people. And then we have a Jimmy Ferguson. Guess what? He used to do school administrator. He decided to have a McDonald's, and he has 20 McDonald's, more than 1,000 people he hired. Yeah, he knows that that's their contribution. And the one of the largest Asian American-owned server companies in Silicon Valley, they have 1,400 people. That is our contribution to this.
Just one small sample, but it bears uplifting stories of what millions of Americans are doing across this country from the AANHPI community to drive economic opportunity. So thank you for everything that you're doing on that front. I'm going to come back to you. We've been talking a lot about the economic policies that we've been able to get passed, some things that you pointed out that we still need to do. But there are a number of new initiatives, many of them here at the Commerce Department, like our new Tech Hubs program, like Shilling, as you mentioned, the Capital Readiness Program at the Minority Business Development Agency. The things that we're doing and that we're seeing in terms of the evolution of artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, we're seeing a huge progression around technology and where our businesses need to be much more facile to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. What is NMSDC doing to help position companies all across the country to be ready to participate in these programs, to advance technology, to drive American leadership?
That's a great question. Can you hear me?
Yes. First of all, I really want to applaud the administration and Commerce Department Secretary Raimondo and yourself for your leadership. You created once in a lifetime opportunities for MBEs.
You can have the $10.
And so, CHIPS Act and Inflation Reduction Act, Infrastructure Spend Bill, all of that creates so much more opportunities. Traditionally, our MBEs has been boxed into these conventional low-margin commodity businesses like janitorial services, staffing businesses, etc. But what you all created opportunities that allow us to go to technology forward, high margin businesses. And so at NMSDC, we have not announced yet, I'm gonna share with you now, we're looking at a program called Next Now. Basically working with our corporate American partners, working with our government partners to look at what is the next, what is the business of future in clean energy, electrification, in artificial intelligence, software development, all of that. What is the business of the future? So we can equip our MBEs to pivot to the business of the future. And so my role as a CEO of NMSDC is really to provide a new North Star for MBEs to go capture the business of the future. I want to use an example. Danielle Moon of Sparks. Are you here? She's back there. So Sparks is a new company. Stan, come on, don't be shy. All your accomplishments. So Sparks was created in 2019, and the company, I think they're the only company has a high density, zero cobalt, lithium ion technology for battery manufacturing, made in USA, in West Virginia. And better yet, their patent technology came from DOE. Oak Ridge Lab. So the technology transfer partnership with the government is so super critical. So they got 6 patents, right, from DOE Oak Ridge Lab, and allow them to create this cutting edge technology and allow them to provide domestic manufacturing jobs and allow them to lead into the future. So I look forward to really, we already have a great partnership. You're just amazing leadership, and Don Cravens, the undersecretary, I call him, he's my brother from a different mother. And we have an amazing partnership already, but I think, next steps really have focused program together to figure out how do we transfer government research to AAPI businesses on technology so you can be the business of the future.
I see that we're about to get the hook, but I would be remiss if I didn't give the two of you a platform to share additional thoughts, ask for whatever it is that you need to ask, and to talk to all of us across the world who are listening about the things that we need to do for the future. So any final thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you, Don. Thank you again. I'm just so grateful, on behalf of the entire AAPI business community, for you and also for Undersecretary John Cravens. Thank you so much for your leadership. I want to share two thoughts. First of all, thank you so much for being here. I know how difficult for a small business owner, take time off when they are here to learn. And we have done a survey. Although all the difficulties and barriers, the 75% of our community feel very optimistic about the world future. And the second thing is, I just cannot thank you enough to name this building and woman in another building. I had a privilege to, they are just very much known, not very much like my mentor. Yesterday, I talked with Mrs. Danny Minata, and we just miss him. Because look at where he's coming from, where he has become to, it's just amazing. He loves his country, he loves people, he loves his community. So the thing I want to share with the group is very much like follow Secretary Minata's step. Be positive, be engaged, be united, and be yourself. Thank you.
I want you all to make lots of money. And so I'm a math person, and let me share with you some stats. Last week, MSDC released the 2022 Economic Impact Study. And I'm very pleased to share with you that Asian Pacific American businesses certified by us generated $94.4 billion annual revenue. That's a 31% increase year over year. And Asian Indian generated over $70 billion in annual revenue, and that's 21% increase year over year. So if you all have not involved with us, do it now. But if you think about it, the numbers seem very impressive, but if you think about it, it's a 26 trillion economy. Like our shares are very, very small portion. It's not representative of population today. So therefore, at MSDC, we have an aspirational goal to get to 1 trillion. And I want you all to be part of that. And so if you don't know us, come to engage with us. We have 23 affiliates across the United States. We have a corporate member sitting right here. Wells Fargo is just an amazing partner of MSDC. I came to this country, my first bank account was Wells Fargo, and it was $1,000 I deposited. I still have the same bank account number. Now I'm a dedicated banker, so you can imagine. My Wells Fargo account witnessed the progression of our American dream. And so I want all of you to realize our job is to be here to help you to realize your American dream. What a pleasure to be here, Deputy Secretary. Maybe you can take a selfie with the audience in the background. I have my phone, and everybody please smile.
Thank you. Perfect time. You can cover.
One, two, three.
All right, another round of applause for our first five-side check. Great discussion, great advice. Always great to see Don Gray. I'm the other Don here at the Department of Commerce. And every once in a while people say, oh, you're Don Gray. I'm trying to slim down so I can say yes, I am. But it's not working. All right, next, we are going to have a very important panel. And the name of that panel is Equity in the CHIPS and Science Act. And you've all been hearing a lot about CHIPS and science, the act that was signed by President Biden. The Biden administration has entrusted the Department of Commerce to oversee $56 billion in investments in our nation's semiconductor industry. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for our businesses, all of our businesses, and for our nation, and the Commerce Department is ensuring that we are investing with intention. To open the panel, please let me introduce Mr. Jimmy Ferguson, who guides National ACE's policy mission. And he can teach us a thing or two about entrepreneurship. He and his wife have owned and operated 23 McDonald's franchises across Texas. And I know National ACE is grateful he has brought his talents to their organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the policy chair of National ACE, Mr. Jimmy Ferguson.
Good morning. Good morning. You know, just want to let you know that I spent 5 years, my wife Cindy and I spent 5 years with one restaurant. We did everything. So we cleaned the lobby, cleaned the restrooms, we cooked burgers, worked the drive-through, welcomed the customers. So it was a long journey, but with consistency and passion and loving our people, we can all do it. I want to share with you that creating helpful incentives to produce Semiconductor and Science Act of 2022 is better known as CHIPS, much easier. And it was signed in August 9, 2022, and it's designed to boost U.S. competitiveness and innovation in the national security. And what we want to do is that the CHIPS and Science Act will redirect $280 billion over the next 10 years. And research, development, tax credit, and economic development. And today we have experts in the U.S. Department of Commerce to explain to us, to explain to the AANHPI community, small business owners, and how we can access the opportunities with the CHIPS and Science Act. So we have a panel of 3 individuals, and they are, well, the moderator will be Connie Patterson, Senior Advisor for Opportunities Inclusion of CHIPS for America, U.S. Department of Commerce. I believe. And also on the panel, Farouk Saad, Director of Public Engagement for CHIPS Program Office, CHIPS for America, U.S. Department of Commerce. And I'm going to do my best, okay? Jased Singh, Executive Director for Select USA Global Market, U.S. Department of Commerce. So if you could.
Well, good morning, everyone. As you all know, small businesses are always very flexible and nimble, and I hope you noticed that it's 2, not 3, so I just share the regrets on behalf of the Executive for Select USA. But we're excited to talk to you about Chips for America. And we're also going to do a little bit of interactive work with you to kick us off, if you don't mind. And then I will invite my colleague Kate Roos to give a presentation, and I'll pinch it, and then we'll have a bit of a conversation. Well, again, I hope everyone is enjoying this time together. As Kate Roos and Kylie Patterson give this presentation today. So before I jump into this, and this is the interactive portion. What exactly is a chip? Now, that's a big question. That almost sounds like what is the meaning of life? Don't worry, I won't ask you that question this morning, but it's important to give some context. So when we talk about chips, a lot of folks are like, what exactly is this? You know, I know myself, I didn't spend a great deal of time in the electric engineering courses at Temple University, so instead I focused on policy. But what's exciting is that chips are in everything. Right now, many of you are walking around with effectively a bank of chips, you know, a number of chips in your phone. And so my first interactive question for all of you, how many chips are in a modern automobile car? Can I get a guess from the audience?
How many chips?
How many chips are in a modern vehicle?
5,000. 5,000.
Come on, what do we got? I guess this isn't the Price is Right generation. I'm the Price is Right generation. Well, there are somewhere between 1,400 and 1,500 chips in a modern car, just to give you a feel for how basic chips are to our lives. As you all may recall, during the pandemic, there were a number of shortages, which really prevented our ability to get to market. It prevented automobiles from leaving the factories, and it impacted a number of other businesses in areas including small appliances, medical devices, and the like. And I wanted to give that context as we go into this conversation to recognize that chips really are a part of our everyday lives, and this is why it's such a high priority for the Department of Commerce and for the United States of America. So with that, I'm going to transition to my colleague Kate Roos, who will give a presentation, a high-level presentation of the Chips and Science Act.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Kylie. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and for having us. So now that we, for the most part, know what a chip is, let's get into what is the Chips and Science Act and really the CHIPS program. And then hopefully what that means for a lot of you in this room today. Oh, there we go. All right, here we go. Yeah, the chips. So the Chips and Science Act was, 2 programs were created in response to the need that Kylie laid out. And Congress last summer allocated about $52 billion to advance these this program and policy need. $39 billion for incentives in manufacturing and $11 billion for research and development. And we'll get into a little bit of the specifics of each of these a little as the presentation goes on. But it's also important to remember that this money in this program is built upon a number of other things happening across the U.S. government, also created to advance chips, semiconductor manufacturing, and of course the workforce. So the Department of Defense had an ME Commons program, like our Electronics Commons Grant program, that recently, I believe, closed. The National Science Foundation has education and workforce grants that they're advancing. Even the State Department has about $500 million dedicated to chips. And then, of course, the Department of Treasury, I think it's a 25% tax incentives program. Okay, so along with the first info just released late February, we also released something called our Vision for Success paper. that really lays out how the administration, Department of Commerce, Secretary Raimondo, and other leadership will define success of this program. A couple of things to really focus in on here. One is that by the end of the decade, the hope is that we will have at least 2 semiconductor and chips ecosystems. But we'll get in a little bit more about what an ecosystem means. That would be for leading edge chips. And of course, you can see, I won't go through these one by one. You can kind of see that. The goal is that, along with kind of continuing to lead on the manufacturing of leading edge, but also the maturing of chips, ensuring that there's a consistent supply chain for our cars and others that rely on these other chips. Advanced packaging within the research and development space, an incredibly important piece of our chips is how they come together. And then memory as well. So, as I noted, at the end of February, we released our first Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO for short. This one is specifically for leading edge and mature node chips for semiconductor manufacturers. I'm not getting it right today. This is why we need more chips and better chips in our country. This is the timeline. So the first NOFO is, as I said, for the leading edge and mature node manufacturing of chips. Our next NOFO, which will be in about late spring, early summer, will be for the supply chain and equipment manufacturers. And then in the fall, we will have a NOFO for R&D facilities specifically. Later, okay. So, again, I won't read these one by one. This is just kind of laying out our program objectives of what we hope to accomplish more broadly through the CHIPS Act. And a few things to really focus in on is, one, catalyzing private investment. Secretary Raimondo says, again, this is not about replacing investment, right? This is the U.S. government's kind of investment into this, and the hope is that we bring in private industry, we bring in private investments with us so that we can build the foundation here, but obviously continue to build upon it and lead in R&D design, which is research and development, which is where we've been leading, but of course also on the manufacturing piece. And then the other thing, just getting ahead without me. Well, the other thing that I want to kind of hone in on this slide as well is the driving economic opportunity and inclusive economic growth. Kylie's going to get into the specifics of that in a bit, but it's just really important to know that this is something that is specifically laid out within the CHIPS and Science Act and within the CHIPS Program Office. Hence Kylie's position and how it's been integrated into the policy and the programs is really interesting. Kylie, again, will get into the specifics of that, but it is important to know that, this isn't just about manufacturing. This isn't just about research and design. This is about a larger ecosystem, kind of broader economic impacts. So there's a lot of confusion about who actually applies as an applicant. And so this lays it out basically. Most applicants will be kind of the companies themselves. So for the first NOFO, it is the semiconductor chips manufacturers. For the second NOFO, it will be the equipment manufacturers. It will be the suppliers. Same thing with the R&D facilities, but again, we'll get into this. The applications and the program is built in a way that it is really not just meant to, but in some ways even necessary to bring in others and to ensure that partnerships are created in a way that allows for the advancement of a number of program priorities. This is why I hand it off to you. Okay, so I'll let Kylie kind of get into the next pieces and talking about the program priorities and some of the things we're going to be talking about.
Sure. So once a firm has, once an organization is eligible, the big question is, well, what are we going to assess them upon? And so here are the 6 areas that we will be evaluating. And I'm going to draw everyone's attention to in particular. And this is really exciting. It was mentioned, there's a commitment to full inclusion. And that includes, just to be clear, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities, and other communities that have been historically underrepresented in this area. So I'm going to draw your attention to 2 provisions in particular. The first being workforce development. We want to make sure, and in order for us to be effective, we need everyone in. There is a projected workforce demand, or I should say gap, of 90,000 technicians. In order for us to achieve our vision, we're going to need to identify 90,000 technicians who are not currently available. And in particular, what's exciting about this is that these are roles that may not require a 4-year degree. They may require a credential or some other type of shortened educational experience. And with that, we also know that if we want to identify and envision a new type of future, we want to make sure we include those who are historically and economically disadvantaged, which is a key element to our strategy. But we also know that a big area that prevents people from joining the workforce, even today, is their inability to locate affordable, accessible, reliable, and high-quality childcare. So we are also asking all of our applicants to provide a plan to ensure that that type of barrier is not a barrier for the workforce. Thank you. Thank you. It's not a plan. Thank you so much. But then additionally, and this is kind of an exciting element to all this too, is we're requiring that every applicant have an educational partner to provide training, both immediately to become a technician and ongoing training. And I share all of that because I think, as I'm sure all of you are aware, it allows for a lot of creativity and innovation, new ways of partnering, potentially new types of business opportunities and business partnerships that could be made available to drive our workforce ambitions. Additionally, I wanted to call out that our big ambition, our big thought here is that America's diversity is our comparative advantage. To be clear, we are very unique, and I think even this event and Feiruz and I sitting here is an example, a beautiful example of what makes America amazing. And in particular, what we think is going to be the driving force that will keep semiconductor manufacturing here in the long term following this significant investment. One other area I want to call out is around how we want to be place-based. We recognize that every place is going to be the same, and so the workforce development ambitions in any particular area are going to be much different. But I think that's what's exciting is that we know, for instance, again, with all of you, your businesses are located in community, you know your communities very well, you know what's necessary to achieve your various ambitions, and we're asking for similar levels of partnership when applicants are pursuing these incentives to look at their area and to identify what's going to be necessary in the region and what other barriers they may encounter as well. For instance, affordable housing, transportation. We really want to make sure that applicants are looking at the full experience of the workforce so they can address any barriers. The next area, perfect. Next area I want to call your attention to is our broader impacts area. So we're evaluating a number of criteria, but I'm going to draw your attention to a couple. First and foremost, in that upper right-hand corner, inclusive opportunities for businesses. Every applicant will have to provide a plan, a supplier diversity outreach plan to ensure that they are not only, of course, producing chips, but that when they're doing this in partnership with businesses in the area, minority-led, women-led, and veteran-owned businesses. So that's a key component to the work, and again, I share that with all of you for your own planning purposes if you like. Additionally, we have a commitment around content preferences effectively made in America. So we're looking at all of the supplies that go into the expansion of a semiconductor manufacturing facility. So that's That's the metal, that's the rivets, etc. as well. And so, and the last thing around community investments, we're asking all of the applicants to have a community investment strategy to identify what is a barrier to economic development in the area and to invest to address that, that barrier and continue to support the broader surrounding ecosystem. I wanted to share all that because, as you can see, we're very intentional about the inclusion of businesses and of minority-led businesses in particular.
Okay, so we touched on this briefly. So in addition to the incentives and manufacturing piece, there's the research and development side of R&D, which is $11 billion. You know, seems small compared to $39 billion, but still a lot of money. So here are just kind of, again, some of like the vision for success is laid out by the R&D program. Again, workforce is going to be an incredibly important piece here, and something that, you know, the program and staff will be paying specific attention to. Another place where there is ample room and I think need for the right partnerships and the right collaborations and opportunity. A focal point of the R&D program is going to be something called the NSTC, the National Semiconductor Technology Center. Great, thank you. The NSTC, so a couple weeks ago there was a vision strategy that we launched for the NSTC. That really kind of talked about what we hope to accomplish. The biggest piece, I think, for this conversation is that the NSTC has really created, one of the, I think, reasons to create the NSTC, because there are things and mechanisms and income structures that look similar to it, is to open up access and allow for greater participation by a broader community in the research and development space for CHIPS. And so the NSTC will really be the hub and hopes to accomplish that. It'll hopefully lead on the workforce development programs, but it'll have some sort of membership structure that we'll know more about towards the end of the year that will allow for small businesses, individuals, you know, academia, community colleges, anyone who is doing work within this space, who's thinking about this space, to really come in and hopefully be part of the community. The goal, again, is that I say we really want to help speed up the what we call kind of lab to fab. You know, so bringing the designs, the ideas, you know, the patents, and help move them along into commercialization so that we can manufacture them and have them here within the U.S. So that's it. So there's some resources where you can find more information about CHIPS. Chips.gov is the best resource really that you're going to have. All of our materials, all of our workforce guide, our vision and strategy papers, everything's on chips.gov, as well as a couple emails if you are an applicant where you can email. If you're someone who's just kind of asking questions because you play another role in the ecosystem, another email for that. And then also a submission form if you would like to request a meeting, or if you have an event coming up and want certainly Kylie or I, but other folks within the CHIPS leadership team to speak at your event. So I think we can probably end it there, and I think go ahead.
And one other thing, if you're an organization or entity that might be eligible for this opportunity, we also invite you to submit a statement of interest or an SOI, and that's on chips.gov as well. But I think what's so important for me in this conversation, something that I hope that we can do is, there's always that question of what's the brass tacks? So what does this mean for me? What does it mean for all of you? And where might you fit in? I hope that's a question that you're thinking of. So let me share with you what my answer is, and invite you just to comment as well. What I'll say is that we're going to need everyone in. This is a whole society approach, and that includes all of the businesses represented in this room as well. In particular, because we are focused on various clusters, we're really asking ourselves, how can we drive impact by focusing on clusters, by focusing on a number of firms working together in concert with one another, where there's that symbiotic relationship where ideas and the visions are being shared. With that in mind, I will say immediately for all of you, it's identifying if there may be semiconductor equipment or suppliers in your area, and ask yourself, are you already connected with them, so that way you can broach them and begin to work with them. I think what's exciting is, even setting aside the CHIPS and Science Act, we do know the semiconductor industry is on track to reach $1 trillion by 2030. So this is an industry that's only going to continue to grow. I use this anecdote often. I'm not sure if people like it or not, but I just saw an article saying that Houston is now requiring RFID chips in all of their cats and dogs in the city. And it goes to show you how these are really becoming a part of our lives, and in some cases, I guess, a part of our animals. And so I just want to lift that up and encourage everyone to be thinking about how you can be a part of this. I would hate to wake up in 2030 and realize that certain communities or certain businesses miss the opportunity to benefit from this significant investment, really the first of our generation. And the Secretary said that this is effectively our moonshot. You might remember when President Kennedy said we're going to the moon. This looks a lot like that, and we want to make sure everyone in this room and everyone in America can benefit from it. Anything else, neighbors? Thank you.
Great discussion. Great discussion. And as Patterson just said, just an amazing opportunity for all of us. And what we are working on, I think you heard it from both of these women, young women, but brilliant women. That's what's making this time in our nation's history a little different. Not only is the investment there, but you're hearing the intentionality with the equity lens is there too. I am meeting with these young women and all of the CHIPS team very frequently. That's why it was important for MBDA to be a permanent agency. We're not just talking about building. We want to make sure that all of us get an opportunity to be part of the building. And we don't miss this great opportunity, that we get to be part of it. All right, our next panel is investing in AANHPI businesses. We're going to hear from investors and representatives in the private sector who are working with intention, there's that word again, to expand opportunities and access for our businesses and all minority businesses. To open the panel, allow me to introduce one of our teammates here at the Department of Commerce, Deputy Assistant Secretary for the U.S. Field at the International Trade Administration in the Department of Commerce, Ms. Kendi Yamaguchi. Ms. Yamaguchi's job is to help U.S. businesses export overseas and to open foreign investment opportunities here in the United States. Expanding access to exports and exporting opportunities is critical to the minority business community. That's the mission of MBDA's 4 export centers, which help us accomplish our mission of fostering global competitiveness for minority business enterprises. And so we love working with ITA, and I'm so honored to be joined this morning, and I ask you to please join me in welcoming Ms. Deputy Assistant Secretary of ITA, Ms. Kendi Yamaguchi.
Thank you to National ACE and MBDA for inviting me here today. As something very dear to my own experiences and the department's initiatives, I'm happy to open and introduce Investing AANHPI Business Plan. Having roles with the Clinton administration and now Biden administration today is very meaningful for me. And the reason why it's meaningful is I had the opportunity to work on the executive order creating the White House Initiative on Asian American, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. And I've sought ways to build public, private, and nonprofit sector work together to advance opportunity, justice, and equity. While Deputy Mayor of Seattle, I coordinated city priorities on business culture initiatives and external relations, promoting job creation, public investment, and culture diversity. Investment into the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community is something that the Biden administration and previous work has reflected. In my current role as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for U.S. Field, I oversee nearly 300 trade professionals across 106 U.S. offices in 48 states and Puerto Rico, working directly with U.S. businesses like yours. These professionals are boots on the ground to advocate for U.S. businesses, counsel clients on opportunities available internationally, and ultimately to help them grow as a business and grow jobs in our communities. Coming from a family that owns several Asian American businesses, I know the challenges and obstacles that are faced, and I know how important it is to be able to access resources within our community. The U.S. is the world's largest economy, and it is blessed with one of the most diverse populations in the world. And this diversity is the source of much of our strength for innovation, creativity, as well. While we have a duty to ensure that the benefits of trade are felt broadly, it also makes smart business sense to leverage the advantages of our communities and our diverse families and businesses around the country. And this means expanding outreach and opportunities for our businesses from underserved communities, including rural communities and minority and women-owned businesses. So one thing we recently launched in 2021 was the Global Diversity and Export Initiative to reach specifically diverse businesses in underserved communities, including Black, Hispanic, Asian American, Native American, LGBTQI+, veteran, disabled, and women-owned companies. And this is to ensure our programs and services reach underserved populations. Our GDI team enters several strategic partnerships with over a dozen business organizations across the country, ranging from the National Business League to the Asian American Chamber, and so many more, just to name a few. Our U.S. Field colleagues also work very closely with MBTA, SBA, XM, USTA, and others to bring export resources to underserved business communities. And I'm pleased to share, most recently, we organized a trip to Asia. If many of you did not attend or are not aware, you have the opportunity next year as well to attend what our most recent event was called the Trade Winds Conference. And it occurred in Asia, Bangkok, Thailand, with mission stops in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Vietnam. And if I could add, it was the second week that I was in this position, and I was able to attend that event and just see the amazing things and the opportunities for our businesses across the United States. 112 U.S. companies attended from 34 states. 90% of them were micro, small, or medium-sized enterprises. And 37% of these companies and organizations were minority, women, veteran, disabled, and rural owned. And this is but one example of how we're weaving our focus on reaching and serving previously underserved communities in everything that we do. We are also in the process of planning the GDI trade mission to South Africa and Ghana. So many of you can take a look at another opportunity upcoming, with an optional stop in Nigeria, and that is scheduled for August 6th through the 15th. We have currently received more than 100 applicants for this mission, and are still accepting applications until May 31st. I always have to plug an upcoming opportunity. So I'd now like to introduce our esteemed panel, starting with Dr. Karen Ng. She's the president and CEO of CSMI and is a board member of National ACE. She was an optometrist with a doctorate from the New England College of Optometry. She switched careers and industries to take over her family business. CSMI is an engineering firm, and she has used her professional success to support, promote, and mentor other girls, women, and minority business owners, particularly in STEM. Her company is especially dedicated to developing and implementing an effective supplier diversity program, which serves the participation of minority, women, disabled business enterprises. So, Ruben, Barrows is the Senior Vice President, External Engagement, Diverse Segments Representation, and Inclusion at Wells Fargo. That's quite a lot of work. He works to advance Wells Fargo's diversity and inclusion efforts for employees, customers, and the communities he serves. Ruben served as President and CEO of Grow Elect of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce and the joint venture Silicon Valley Network. He also led an effort focused on increasing the number of Latinos elected to state and local government. Prior, he served in the White House as Deputy Assistant to the President and Director of the White House Intergovernmental Affairs. The son of Mexican immigrants, Ruben was the first Latino elected to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. He was recognized as one of the 100 most influential Hispanics in the United States by the Hispanic Business Magazine. And he received the Otley Award from the government of Mexico for his commitment to improving the well-being of Hispanics in the United States. Next, I'd like to introduce Fubi. He is the founder and owner of FT Manufacturing and AANHPI. FT Manufacturing is a full-service apparel manufacturer specializing in direct-to-garment and embroidery. And AANHPI is a global lifestyle brand with influences in surf, streetwear, and Polynesian culture. I checked out his website. Wanted to pick up some good. But in addition to running AANHPI, he hosts his own entrepreneur podcast, Hustle Codes, which explores the inspirational stories of entrepreneurs from different sectors in business and how they made it to the top. He is a board member of several organizations, including the Two Foundation, which is a nonprofit in Los Angeles, which offers asset-building tools in low-income communities. He is also a sought-after motivational speaker for entrepreneurs and academic and athletic mentorship for inner-city youth. He recently became co-owner of vegan burger restaurant, Beeleaf Burgers, a thriving vegan burger chain that provides all the foods we've grown to love. Quite an entrepreneur. And finally, our moderator, Jacob Stig, general partner of Joint Ventures and board member of Catalyte. Just Ventures is a social innovation venture studio in Baltimore, Maryland. And he is also the former CEO of Catalyte, a workforce data science and software engineering company. Prior to joining Catalyte, Jacob was CEO at Symbio, a R&D and product engineering company, which he led from early stage startup to globally distributed multinational player. Prior to Symbio, he founded and exited 2 startups after working in investment banking after graduating from Wharton. He has been a founding investor in over 30 companies in the United States and Asia. And outside of his work, he serves as the Board of Smithsonian's Asian Pacific American Center, the Greater Baltimore Committee, and the Walters Art Museum and National ACE. So I am pleased to join and have all our panelists join on stage.
Let's do this really quick. You guys have been sitting around for quite a while. Stand up, take a stretch, because I want you to really listen to my panel. Pay attention. Stand up. Hey, you guys did such a great job. Fantastic. You guys have a mic? Get a mic? Hey, grab a mic, let's go.
Sitting here.
Good morning, everyone. One more time, good morning.
There we go.
All right, we're gonna move this up a little bit. I am your moderator, not Jacob. And then we have the Black Five. We have Ruben Farrell, and we have Jacob Sue. So now the slides are proper. All right? So let's cut to the chase. The question that we all have, and we are most interested in, is this: how do we get access to capital? We at National ACE
exists solely to help you, and today we have an impressive lineup of people who have answers and who are able and willing to guide you to the promised land. We also have some AAPI entrepreneurs who have battle experience in the trenches, and they will share their experiences with you. We want you to walk away from today's event with specifics and results. How can you think differently? What you can do differently, and who can help you. Think this is worth your time? Yeah. Pretty good, right? All right, without further ado, please allow me to introduce, again, 3 of my dear friends. 2 of them I recruited onto the board for National Aid. That's always been, I've been a fan of this for many years. Very handsome group of men, by the way, too. All right, so here we go. Ruben, and Jacob. Here we go. I think we all agree that your mental attitude plays a crucial role in your success as an entrepreneur. To that end, what one mental attitude do entrepreneurs have to immediately drop?
Salve. E buon fatto di tuo con il love con il out of respect for Pacific Islander ancestors, as well as my elders that are in the room. Like I said, a few words in our native tongue, Samoan, because I know they're with us here today. First, again, thank you guys so much for this great opportunity to sit on this panel with my colleagues here to talk about a subject that I'm very, very passionate about. And to answer Karen's question, I think the one thing that entrepreneurs need to let go, especially at the inception of their journey, is that they can wear all the hats, right? Right out the gate, as entrepreneurs, you have this vision, you're trying to get everybody to buy into it, and you want to design the shirt, you want to produce the shirt, you want to do all these things, and at first, that system works, right? But at scale, it actually doesn't. So as you go along your journey, yes, you need people to buy into your concept, whatever that is, but at some point, you have to create a team that's going to complement your strengths. Obviously, you have to address your weaknesses in order for your concept to actually be brought to market. So I think the one thing you need to let go is the fact that you have to do all of this on your own. Right? As you go down your journey, you'll start to align with people that want to buy into it, and at that point, that's when you want to build a strong team for your actual vision.
Thank you. Want to go, Jennifer?
Yeah, I'd say probably in this environment, especially, a lot of times we hear about entrepreneurs, this idea like, let's just follow a vision. Let's do our dream, right? You build it, they will come. But in this environment, we're going through massive changes, right? From economic change, geopolitical change. Now we've got technology shift that's happening underway that's quite bigger than the transistor ever was. So, now, especially more than ever, it's like this is the time when we have to be scientists, right? We have to lean into lean into the change, right? The velocity of change is only going to continue to accelerate. And so this environment is just being adaptable and being able to kind of build, test, and learn on your hypotheses and continue to iterate.
Yeah, that's a great point. Testing. That's a great point.
Oh, there we go. Great point. Thank you. I think that in terms of mindset, because so many small businesses, I don't care, AAPI, Latino, African American, are small businesses, and I think the mindset has to be going from a small business owner to an entrepreneur, which some people just kind of use the terms interchangeably, but my parents were small business owners. My dad was a roofer, he had a small roofing company. My mom ended up with a small coffee shop in our neighborhood, which she ran. But my parents are my heroes. But they're not my business models, because they were fantastic small business owners that I don't think they saw themselves as entrepreneurs, like growing something, building on something. It was almost like self-employment. And it was, it was great, and they raised a family, they had one delivered son, but otherwise it was great. But I think it's from that mindset that yes, you are a small business owner, but you're an entrepreneur, and you have to look at the resources and what you need to do to grow your companies.
Is that like the same thing as hustling?
Hustle, that's right.
All
Right, so we all agree that your actions play a crucial role in your success as an entrepreneur, right? So to that end, what one behavior do entrepreneurs have to immediately drop and/or replace?
I would say in terms of embracing it, that the one quality is that true success is about longevity, right? And, you know, Ruben is part of Wells Fargo, which is probably like a 200+ year company, right? And so if you see these successful companies, they have been built over time. And all true success is measured over time. And so knowing that the entrepreneur journey is more of a marathon, so to speak, once you've adopted that, you know, whatever seeds you plant today won't sprout today, it may come a month from now, 2 years from now, then you switch your mindset and saying, okay, I have to play the long game. So in terms of the quality that most entrepreneurs should embrace is the fact that it's going to take time. True success really takes time. And this isn't a shameless plug. You know, the clothing line, my clothing line was able to land a Nordstrom deal. We've been going on this tour. In terms of that deal, it took time. You know, it really took time. We were really knocking at the door for a while. But, you know, over time, again, we was able to get in there, and you know, it's a proud moment, especially as Pacific Islander, being able to land that deal. So success is about longevity. True success is about longevity.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll sort of say both when you drop and what you embrace is I think you have to lean into the suck, right? I think that there's the grind of being an entrepreneur that I think we don't talk enough about, right? We don't only talk about the glory of it, but actually the magic is typically created when you're grinding out, right? And part of that process is also being really clear and self-aware about what you don't know, right? What are those assumptions that you don't actually know about your vision, about what you're trying to build, and leaning into that, right? Because that's typically where those breakthroughs happen, right? It's actually in those areas that you don't know, and typically there's some colliding of vectors usually around ideas, right? And so leaving yourself open to sort of to be able to find and discover those intersections where those breakthroughs may happen, really again comes from embracing the unknown and leaning into it.
Thanks for sharing your mind. Yeah, I think what's that?
That other might work.
It does now. Sorry. Oh, user error. So Paul mentioned at the very beginning, kind of building a team. I think that's because you cannot do it all. And you can't grow and do it all. So you have to choose, right, to do it all or to grow. So that's one. And the other thing, and we talked about, I think the Congressman talked about PPP program, and one of the things we learned from that was to get to know, your banker, get to know your lawyer, your accountant, small business person. Again, it's building your team, which doesn't necessarily mean people that work for you directly. It could be people that you rely on for these specialized services that can help you grow.
You guys all are very successful at what you guys are doing. I'm going to pull a little bit more on behaviors because I know the three of you pretty well. All three of you have different styles of how you lead and things like that. So I'm going to go back to this behavior. What is one of the behavioral characteristics that makes you rise above all the other business owners and entrepreneurs? Just leave it on.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the behavior, the one thing that has really that has been a staple of mine, and this has started when I was young until now, especially within entrepreneurship and relationships. I truly believe true currency is in relationships, right? You can create a relationship with someone and do a one-off deal and never do something again. But when you build a genuine relationship with somebody, it lasts not only your lifetime, but this is generational wealth type lifetime, right? So I truly believe that the relationships that you build along your journey, whatever business sector that you're in, I truly really emphasize that. We're all here, as you guys can see, to build relationships, right? The deal may not come out of it today or next week or whatnot, but then you water that relationship, and over time something may come about. And 20 years later, when it's time to call that person back, Ruben, we call you back, that Ruben will answer the phone because we have established a great relationship. So I can't help to really emphasize just building great relationships along your entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I'm going to build on what Father said, because I believe in just making lots of friends, right? In fact, I mean, I think I learned something when I was doing a lot of business in China, which is make friends first and then find a way to do business together, which is kind of in the way of my mantra of how I've kind of developed most of my companies. And so one of the best practices, one of the things I started doing, going on almost 20 years now, is that I actually make it a thing where every week I try to meet somebody new over a cup of coffee or something. It's not business networking. In fact, by design, I try to randomize it, or it could be the guy who goes, drove Uber on the way over, or it could be, somebody who's, working in a restaurant. But I like to sort of just meet people and just spend an hour in their shoes. And you'd be surprised, over 20 years, just by doing that one little simple practice, I've had great friends all over the world, and some of the biggest deals, some of my biggest successes came from some first or second order connection that I made by just meeting a new person every week, including 3 companies I've acquired in the past. So you'd be surprised how quickly that snowballs. And so that idea of really being able to build that network, build that relationship, but really truly cherish it like a relationship, right? Don't treat it like a transactional business networking thing, right? Truly value the relationships that you're building, and it'll come back to you in multiple.
Yeah, just building on that with the relationships, meeting people, and then asking for help. Asking for help and not being afraid to do that as a small business person. Everything from helping to raise capital to helping solve a problem, and then you find out which of those relationships really are helpful, and which of those people that you meet can really be helpful when you need it. So not to be afraid to ask for help, and that again includes raising money, and you've got to call, you've got to meet people, and you've got to keep asking because you're always doing sales, so to speak.
All right, I'm just gonna cut some of this up. So my thing for y'all is you have a huge amount of equity and passion for your family, right? Every time we talk, you talk about your family, you talk about how everyone's doing, and how you want to help your family, and how you want to grow and bring everyone in. So I think that is an important part of what you do and how you run your business, and like the success. Everyone wants to help you because you reach out to your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, specifically within the Pacific Islander culture, it's really, really family oriented, right? And so when one of those is naked, you see that the village gets behind that person, so to speak. We've seen the phenomenon with Ian Tony. I'm sure everyone's been watching American Idol, right? And if you haven't, I mean, it's a young kid from Hawaii, Tony kid that has taken on the world by storm, and the village has come together to support him, right? So the family unit, in terms of how important it is to actually build a business, is very important. I myself have my son that I have, plans to build these businesses, which eventually I will pass on to him, right? And so that's what I've been doing to make sure that his future is solidified. But at the same time, he saw me in the grind. He's there with me, like literally last week. He was there with us, putting on these Nordstrom tags. He was there, I filmed him, right? And there's a sense of pride for us to actually do that together as father and son alongside the rest of the team. So he knows what it took to actually do a deal like that and run it all the way through. So yeah, family definitely very important to build the family business. And so the kids actually know what it took, from day one. So that way when it is passed on, right, they were there with you guys, grinding it out from the beginning.
So here's the thing, this panel is so compelling. We're going to take a station identification break. We're going to have us, right? Speaker. George.
Are you ready?
We're taking a break. Yeah, Undersecretary Graves.
Please give us 1 second. All right, we'll go back to Jacob. We'll now go to Jacob, right? So my name of Jacob is, oh my goodness, all the businesses you've had, all the businesses you've built, and then you have this thing that you moved from Silicon Valley to the Baltimore area because of a passion to empower and help the underrepresented. So I think that has a lot to do with your success. So when you start giving back and helping others, the business comes back to you even more. So do you want to address that?
Yeah, no, I think, and this is kind of how people always find it weird that I'm in Baltimore, right? It's not an obvious place for an Asian American entrepreneur to go, especially someone who spent both his career in Silicon Valley. And I'll tell you what's fascinating for me is I'm an immigrant. I was born in Taiwan. And I immigrated to the U.S. when I was very young. And so I've lived this immigrant journey. And one of the things that has been sort of fascinating for me has been the parallels between the immigrant journey and what I've gone through. And frankly, some people I know in Baltimore who, in some cases, have come out of 4 or 5 generations of poverty. And the thing that really drives me, that really is kind of my true north of everything that I do these days, is economic mobility. Right? I've spent a lifetime trying to figure out what is it that actually enables people to break out and reach their full potential. Because I grew up in an immigrant community where everybody around me basically went on to become successful, right? And there are principles that I've sort of learned living that life that I'm really trying to pass on and share. Because I've actually come to appreciate that a lot of people don't know what that journey is, right? And some of those lessons. And I think that's something that I think we can synergize across business, and it's a key part of my business strategy in Baltimore.
Appreciate that. And lastly, I'm going to go on Ruben. And you have this fancy schmancy title, Senior Vice President, External Engagement, Diverse Segments, Representation, and Inclusion for Wells Fargo. One of the things I love about you, Ruben, is even with that fancy schmancy title, you are like always talking to us business owners, always talking to national aides and supporting them. And you could kind of be snooty if you wanted to be because you're like SVP, but I really think that is also a part of your success.
I didn't realize I could be snooty, so that's an option too. Try that next. So actually, I got the title on the pretty face, but it's actually Chris here and Tron here at Fargo, who on supplier diversity and on small business banking are the ones that actually make it work. We've got such a diverse team within Wells Fargo that I'm really proud of what we're able to do in terms of serving diverse communities.
So with that, I'm just going to keep moving here. So we want you to know, I'm speaking on their behalf. So for Wells Fargo and Ruben, he is available for you to help to reach out and need any kind of support, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And then for Jacob and Levi, both really, really cool people, very successful. I know that if you come up and talk with them, and I know if you ask them or find them on LinkedIn or whatever, they will reply back to you. And if not, you call me and I'll make sure they'll reply back to you. So with that, I think we have to close up our panel, right? Yes. So thank you so much. So popular.
All right. So this is a historic day for all of the great things we've been talking about and just celebrating our heritage and our history this month. But although we've already had a deputy secretary here today, which is a big deal, nothing's too good for you all. So we want to have a second deputy secretary. And as Army guy, I'm so proud to introduce this next gentleman. It is my honor to welcome Deputy Secretary John Tien, who is the first Asian American to be confirmed as Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. Deputy Secretary Tien has a storied career of public service. Listen to this. He served as National Security Council Senior Director for Afghanistan and Pakistan under President Obama, and National Security Council Senior Director for Iraq under President George W. Bush. So again, serving under two presidents. But his public service career began even before that in the United States military at West Point, where he was the first Asian American to ever serve as the first captain and brigade commander, which is West Point's top-ranked cadet position. That's a big deal. The nation is fortunate. We are blessed to have such a proven leader leading and helping to lead one of the most critical departments in our administration. Please join me in welcoming Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Mr. John Tien.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, for that terrific introduction. Love the Army thing. The Army thing doesn't always rise to the surface necessarily, so you need a little bit of hometown desire type of thing, so we appreciate that. The Department of Homeland Security's mission is that with honor and integrity, we will safeguard the American people, our homeland, and our values. I'm going to say it again for emphasis. With honor and integrity, we will safeguard the American people, our homeland, and our values. So I have to remember that. I usually just do it for emphasis, because people don't necessarily go to the DHS website for your mission statement. I never thought about it as a way to get an applause. I think I might have to do it. I think I might have to either always use that, raise my tone of voice even more, or bring it down with raise my tone. I think I like the second part better. Because then I'm guaranteed it's going to work. You know, it's a pretty important mission. And when I look at this, and I look at this community that's here with us today, in your great summit, you're part of that. You're absolutely part of our community. And we know that. Now, people generally tend to think of the Department of Homeland Security, they think about the border, especially these days, they think about the southwest border, they think about the Western Hemisphere. But indeed, the Department of Homeland Security safeguards all of America, all Americans, all communities, all sectors. And that includes our business community, and that includes our AANHPI community. Now, I know that our community has been under threat, has been under assault in so many different ways. I went out to Monterey Park about 2 weeks after the mass shooting out there. I met with the entire group of senior leaders, the local leaders, the mayor, the local Congress people, the council members. We know if they're from Los Angeles how important the council members out there. And importantly, I met with the nonprofit leaders, the business leaders, and one of the things they said to me, we were very focused, of course, on helping the community recover, especially from a security perspective. But one of the folks who came from the business community said, it really impacts the business community because it creates a stigma around this particular community, and we need organizations like the Department of Homeland Security, like the Department of Commerce, like the Department of Treasury, and others in the federal government to come back in here and show that we respect the community and that we are providing what you might call, not necessarily money, it could be grants or things of that nature, but really the federal government building fees to say, this is a community that has been attacked, this is a community that needs to recover, and this is a community that we respect and appreciate. Now, that's to the right of the event. We obviously don't want to be always to the right of the event. So one of the things that we focus on quite a bit at the Department of Homeland Security is actually outreach to the communities, whether it's the nonprofit part of this sector, whether it's part of the faith-based, whether it's schools, and definitely including in terms of the business community. So we set up something called the Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships. And what this is called CP3, and this is a way to reach out to communities and say, how do you become more resilient? How do you become more prepared for what is seemingly to be the eventuality of a violent act? So that's one way to do it. Now that's outreach, and happy if you're ever looking for a connection to
the Department of Homeland Security. I go through our local coordinators. We have a CP3 organizer in every one of our big metropolitan communities. We also do it through preparedness grants, through resilience grants, in particular through FEMA. Now, most people think about FEMA and they think, FEMA shows up when there's a hurricane, when there's a tornado. Do we have any Californians in here? We have a lot of different. I'm in California, by the way. When I went out to Monterey Park, I mean, it struck very close to my heart because Monterey Park, as you all know, probably better than I do these days, it is definitely a minority city, majority Asian American city. But you know where I grew up, where I went to high school, where I met my girlfriend and now wife 37 years ago. I was trying to plug her a little bit. I went to Cerritos High School. Cerritos in the house. And I grew up in Cerritos, I got gray hair, way back in the 1980s, early 1980s. I thought it was the 1970s, and everybody that guy's old. And already then, Cerritos was probably 52% and now it's booming. So, when Monterey Park got attacked, I was like, wow, it's just a lot like Cerritos. And we, the reason I brought up the California piece was hurricanes, tornadoes. And now we in California, I still consider myself a Californian, we in California learned this new term from FEMA called the atmospheric river. And really bad rain, and it's not great for the community. Climate change is real. And so usually people think of FEMA and they think of the right side of the event, the hurricane, the tornado, the atmospheric river, or earthquake. Like FEMA, 49% of their job, 51% of their job, this is rough estimates, 51% of their job is all about coming and helping folks recover during one of the most crucial and critical times in their life. But again, a big part of FEMA, 49% is about preparedness and resilience. So we have two different kinds of grants that come from FEMA. One is targeted violence and terrorism prevention grants, and then the other is around nonprofit security grants. And this is, again, about reaching into the communities. This is about $300 million in total across the United States of America. And one thing that we were finding was that, and this is nothing against the folks who had gotten our grant money before in prior years or against prior administrations, it's just the reality of how the grant programs work. The folks who've gotten grants before, they're maybe sort of just got really good at it. They really understand how the process works. And so you're just giving more money to the same people time and time again. But who ends up becoming marginalized from this? It's usually communities of colors, like this community. It's usually smaller communities, like this community. And oftentimes, it is outside the normal way of events. And that means that those communities end up becoming even more vulnerable. So it is the Targeted Violence Terrorism Prevention Grant, TVTP, and then it's the Nonprofit Security Grant, NSPSG. Those are the two big grant programs. So again, if you're part of the communities, if you're an elected official, if you're a part of the business community and want to try to drive your organizations towards FEMA, please aim at those two. The third way that the department connects to this community in a very specific way is through cybersecurity. Now, unfortunately, ransomware isn't just for big Fortune 500 companies anymore. The criminal syndicates, in particular, the non-state actors, in particular, in places like Russia, who allows this kind of cybercrime to happen, is attacking smaller organizations as well. If you have any kind of a cyber backbone to your business, if you have an online presence, you are unfortunately, I was going to say legitimate, I don't want to use that word, legitimize that word in that way, you are a possible target for these cyber criminals. We realize that, we've got to make sure that the big boys and girls out there, the big Fortune 500 companies, they have to have those things under control. Well, if you're a Fortune 500 company, you probably have the margin, quite honestly, to make sure that you have the right kind of cybersecurity defenses in place. So one of the things that we've done in the Biden-Harris administration is to democratize, or perhaps an even better word, spread the wealth here and make it even more accessible to organizations like all of yours, and communities like all of yours. And that's been a chief aim of the CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Not looking for applause line. I was like, this is funny. I said it because the organization renamed itself from a NPDD, which I said, well, that was your problem. You can have any vowels. Only have 2 vowels. That's the way to get for people to remember. So, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, and what they do for free, literally for free, is to provide at their website a slew of different materials and information, intelligence is what I would put it. I don't know why I did air quotes. It's literally intelligence about where. Well, I did a little bit of air quotes because when you say the word intelligence, and I would like being in the Department of Commerce because usually I was just at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and the entire super cool buildings. It's like a spaceship. Fit an entire aircraft carrier in Freeport, so it's pretty impressive. But the entire building is a skiff. Like, you can't bring anything in there. Usually when you're around folks like that, like spies, they get really nervous. They don't like us talking about that. They don't talk about intelligence. The problem is, for the Department of Homeland Security, we sit right at that nexus of where, well, we get to see all the super secret stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to share it with state, local, tribal, territorial law enforcement. We have to share it with our communities because really you're the ones who need it at the end of the day. So largely a lot of this information can be shareable. We try to get it declassified so that normal folks who don't hold a security clearance, the vast majority of all of you in this room, can see this information and make use out of it, make it actually actionable to you and useful to you. And that's one of the things that CISA, quite honestly, does as part of their mandate, is say, here's what's out there. Here are the different attack threats and attack vectors that the cyber criminals, and it doesn't have to be the big cyber criminal from Russia, it could be just literally anywhere in the world, are trying to attack your particular websites, your particular online presence and platforms. So CISA, go to the website and they'll share that with you. Now we also do it programmatically through things like the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, and that's the way CISA and DHS connects to the business community. To be fair, if you looked at the JCDC, most of you aren't going to be on the JCDC. They are the big movers and shakers in the business sector. Do we have any Fortune 500 in here? Yep, we have a few here. Anybody on the JCDC with us? Okay, that's probably talent. So, I'll take that back to CISA's leadership when they go through the next JCDC. I'll make sure that this community, not just AANHPI, but making sure that we're being broad-based around this. But that is one way that we can talk to them. But more importantly, we can hear back from the business community who are saying, here's what we're really concerned about. Especially, to be fair, if it's around critical infrastructure, if it's power, energy, water, agriculture, financial services, where I did 10 years in the critical financial services infrastructure, 10 years at Citibank. Understanding that, but it's not just what that's about. Now, the last thing that we do through CISA, not the last thing, but the other big thing that I'll just share with you is something called the Cyber Security Review Board, CSRB, and it is a lot like the NSD. That's how we modeled it. A plane crash happens, it's very sad. What is to do? NTSB comes in and they investigate the site, and they black box from the flight reporter, those sorts of things. Perhaps it was environmental, wind, clouds, bird strikes, and the other nature, trying to figure out what causes. Why? So that in the future we can prevent that. The CSRB has the same mission, but from a cybersecurity perspective. And again, it doesn't help if the CSRB and its findings are all classified and only exist in big buildings and rooms that are skiffs that look like spaceships. It really has to be useful and accessible. It has to be accessible and useful and relevant to people just like you, just like ours, to the business sector, who quite honestly represent 85% of the critical infrastructure the United States of America. I love the panel. I'm sorry I had to step out. I had to take a call to talk to another person who holds a classified, security clearance, and I came back in. Towards the end, was it Jacob? You were talking about your generation Taiwanese American. So I'm for your immigrant, and I'm first generation. My parents, my father was born in Chongqing, China, mainland China in 1940, dating myself now, and he. My grandfather, so his father was part of the Kuomintang government, part of the Chiang Kai-shek's government, and when the communists came in post World War II, effectively drove out the nationalist Chinese. And so my parents fled China, fled their home, and thank goodness that the United States of America, over the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, so about the mid-1950s, welcomed my family into the United States of America. My father naturalized in 1959. I was born in 1963. A lot of people like, sounds old, but it looks young. My father was a student at Yale. And the reason I tell you that little story was I really do feel like my life has come full circle here. Literally, the department, which did not exist, to be fair, the Department of Homeland Security did not exist until March 1st, 2003. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary. President Biden came to our headquarters in St. Elizabeth and Anacostia. Very exciting, just about 2 months ago. But all of these organizations, what had been INS is now USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, led by the great Board Jadu, Director for USCIS. I'm now the Deputy Secretary of the department that allowed me to literally exist. And with that, again, I appreciate everything that the AANHPI community does for the United States of America, does for certainly the U.S. government, and it's done for me. Thank you. He's got 2 titles. He's Undersecretary of Animation.
I love that line, sir. Sound old, look young. It's better than looking old and sounding young. And the fuse me up. That's okay. All right, let's go. We're moving. We're making progress. We're almost at lunchtime. We still have a couple of trees for you before we leave. And so I do appreciate so many of you staying attentive and remaining in the room. I think it's very telling. And I think it shows that people are hungry. They want to know. But some of us are information and opportunity, and I think the fact that so many of you have stayed in this morning is very telling that you want to hear more about these great things. So we're going to keep it moving. Our next panel is titled Staying Competitive in a Digital World, and the Deputy Secretary talked a little bit about that. We have an outstanding group of leaders who are going to speak to this critical moment in our nation's history and in humanity's history, where we must take action to keep up with the demands and challenges of the rapidly evolving 21st century economy. With these challenges, though, come opportunities for minority businesses and communities to grow and build generational wealth. The Department of Commerce is helping make that a possibility by overseeing, this is some more money you gotta know about, $65 billion from the bipartisan infrastructure law to implement game-changing broadband initiatives, making internet for all a possibility for the first time in history. To open our next panel, allow me to introduce to you the Deputy General Counsel for the White House's Office of the National Cyber Director, Mr. Paul Tiao. Mr. Tiao has a storied legal career in the cybersecurity and energy industries, from serving in the United States Senate on the Judiciary Committee to Senior Counselor for Cybersecurity and Technology at the FBI. And now he is advising President Biden's National Cyber Director on some of the nation's most critical priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Tiao.
Thank you, Undersecretary Fraser, for that very kind introduction, and many thanks to the MBTA and National ACE for inviting me to speak here today. Congratulations on a great event. So I'm with the Office of the National Cyber Director, which was created in 2021, and it's the newest component in the White House. What we do is we advise the President on cybersecurity policy and coordinate the whole of government approach to this challenge. We do work very, very closely with the Deputy Secretary and his team at CISA and other parts of DHS, along with all of the other federal agencies that are actively in the cybersecurity space. We also have recently joined AANHPI and are working to translate cyber guidance into Asian American languages and promote AANHPI in this cyber workforce. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. So why should you care about cybersecurity? Well, according to an SBA-funded report, 50% of small businesses have been hit by a cyber attack. Cyber attacks can cause significant financial, reputational damage, and then also expose companies to legal liability. 60% of small businesses that are hit by a cyber attack report legal liability. So this is very serious. And there are some forms of cyber attacks that actually have a particular sort of connection to our unit. Pig butchering is one of the most common forms of cryptocurrency extortion. It originated in Asia and still disproportionately affects AANHPI individuals and businesses. And we're working to address that specifically. So what should businesses be doing about cybersecurity? Well, if you go to the SBA website, they will recommend that you secure your networks, that you use antivirus software, keep your software updated, that you enable multi-factor authentication, that you secure, protect, and back up your sensitive data, develop a cybersecurity plan and incident response plan, train your employees, and you can go to the Commerce Department, FTC and DHS website for more information on how to protect yourself. So but I'm really here to talk about what the government's doing in this space and how it affects small businesses and what you can do to work with us. Not only DHS, but other parts of the government as well. So in March, the Biden-Harris administration issued the first national cybersecurity strategy in about 5 years. 5 years is an eternity in the cybersecurity world. So it was long overdue. My office led a whole government effort to develop that strategy, and now we are coordinating the implementation closely with CISA, DOJ, and the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and others. The strategy calls for two fundamental shifts. First, we must rebalance the responsibility to defend cyberspace. As you, as small business owners, you must feel this pain very, very much, very personally. Because today's digital ecosystem too often devolves cybersecurity risk downward onto individuals, onto small businesses, including AAPI, small and medium-sized businesses. We're asking those with the least resources, frankly speaking, to be our first and last lines of cyber defense. And that's not good policy. Instead, the biggest, most capable, best positioned actors should assume a greater share of the burden for mitigating cyber risk. And that's one fundamental shift we're trying to move this country towards. Second, we must realign incentives to favor long-term investments. When public and private sector entities are faced with a trade-off between easy but temporary fixes versus durable long-term solutions, they should have the resources, capabilities, and incentive to consistently choose the latter, the durable long-term solutions. That's not what we're trying to do. That's where we want to go with this strategy. There's 5 pillars of the strategy. Pillar 1 is defending critical infrastructure. We want Americans to be confident and the resilience of our critical infrastructure. Government needs to collaborate with industry. At speed and scale, since the private sector owns and operates the vast majority of our critical infrastructure. Regulation is needed for national security and public safety. Despite all the progress we've made through our voluntary approaches, our critical infrastructure is still, unfortunately, not sufficiently resilient. In some cases, we'll need minimum cybersecurity requirements beyond those that exist in the past for cybersecurity regulations now. We're working with industry to develop regulations that meet our needs and create a level playing field. That means that first, in our view, any new regulation should be highly targeted based on critical sector-specific risks. Second, regulations should be harmonized with existing requirements in order to reduce duplicate rules and assessments. Third, regulations should be developed collaboratively with industry. As our work in OECD gets underway, as the government really begins to dig into these issues of software liability shifting to regulatory harmonization, we need to be smart. And in order to be smart, we need input from small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses. We need input from you. You're directly affected by regulations. You would be. We need input from you on how to be smart about developing and harmonizing regulations. Pillar 2 concerns dismantling and disrupting the threat actors. Take the fight to the bad guys, right? Government will use all instruments of national power to prevent malicious actors from mounting sustained cyber attacks. We will also look to prevent adversaries from using and abusing our IT infrastructure to conduct malicious cyber activity. That means, as many of you probably are somehow in the IT field, that you may be contacted by the FBI or DHS to help us prevent malicious actors from using your networks, your architecture for bad purposes. So if the FBI or DHS contacts you on a cybersecurity matter, please make sure to respond and assist. It used to be in private practice 6 months ago, and even large companies would be shocked when they would get a call from FBI. And many of them would just ignore it, not thinking that it was real, that it was just a stupid. It could be, but you should definitely respond. Don't click on the link, but respond. You have to respond because it is amazing how often companies first hear about cyber attack from the FBI. You might be the victim of a cyber attack. You might need to help prevent others from being victims. We all are in this together. Please respond. DHS is at FBI. Pillar 3 is about shaping market forces to drive security and resilience. We aim to place responsibility on those best positioned to reduce risk and shift the consequences of poor cybersecurity away from the most vulnerable. Markets are to reward those entities that are doing the right thing and incentivize change for those that are not. One reason we can do this is software liability. Over and over, we see cyber attacks coming through software that is used by thousands and thousands of businesses. We need to make sure that the software is secure. We need the market to produce safer software, but imposing prescriptive requirements could make it hard for small businesses, small companies to compete. We don't want to make startups non-competitive. So liability, which imposes fewer upfront costs but includes potential back-end penalty, may be a more effective tool than prescriptive upfront requirements. We'll see where this goes, but those are things that we're looking at. Shifting liability to software development will be a long-term process. It's going to require legislation, but we've got to start by working with industry and academia to better define our software development best practices. We also need a safe harbor that will shield companies from liability if they securely develop their software. Pillar 4 concerns investing in a resilient future. Not all cybersecurity problems are technological, but some definitely are. So we need to make targeted investments to clean up systemic technical vulnerabilities in our digital ecosystem. We also need to invest in people. The U.S. currently faces 750,000 person gap in cybersecurity jobs nationwide. So any of you that have like high school children or college age children, cybersecurity, computer science, those are very, very good fields to go into right now because we have 750,000 jobs that are unfilled. That is a big problem, but it's an opportunity for all of us, and it's definitely an opportunity for the AANHPI. So my office is finalizing a cybersecurity workforce and awareness strategy that will close this gap, and we aim to make AANHPI a big part of that cyber training workforce inside and outside of the government at entry-level positions on up to CEOs and C-suites. So please join us in this effort to make our customers secure. We're also working with AANHPI to make cybersecurity guidance range accessible to our communities. Finally, Pillar 5 concerns forging international partnerships to pursue shared goals and building a secure global supply chain that, frankly, includes community. So thank you again for allowing me to speak about our national cybersecurity strategy. We are looking forward to working with you side by side to make our country more cybersecure.
All right, we're going to have a great panel in a few minutes, but we're going to have just one deviation from the schedule. It's a special guest who we want to go ahead and let him speak so that he can continue doing the nation's business. We've had two deputy secretaries, big deal. And you're thinking that there's no way MBDA and National Agency could get a third. There's no way. This year, we're going to be in year 3. Oh, that's a 5-year, 10-year anniversary type lineup. But guess what? We did. We did. And I'm so honored to introduce this speaker for today's summit, Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of Treasury, Mr. Wally Adeyemo. Mr. Adeyemo, yes, get the problem. Mr. Adeyemo has been at the heart of this nation's economic policy for over a decade. From helping the Obama administration guide the nation through the 2008 financial crisis, you all remember that? To serving as president of President Obama's, he was the deputy director of the National Economic Council, as well as the first ever chief of staff of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where he helped protect Americans from financial fraud and abuse. Now the Deputy Secretary serves as the Treasury Department's second in command and Chief Operating Officer. He oversees just vitally important, critical issues and initiatives. That includes the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which many of you are hearing about nationally and in your states, also known as SSBCI, which is a $10 billion fund designed to drive new investment and capital into America's small businesses. SSBCI is a big deal for us at MBDA as well, because it is the source of the $100 million that we were able to use to create our new capital readiness program that we'll be announcing very, very soon. The Department of Treasury, because of Deputy Secretary Adeyemo's vision, they wanted to make sure that the underserved entrepreneurs know how to gain access to the tens of billions of dollars in capital. So they came to the MBDA because they know that it is what we do. And they gave MBDA access to $100 million to get entrepreneurs capital ready in order to secure their share of all the billions of dollars in infrastructure opportunities we've been talking to you. So thank you. I promised the Deputy Secretary in the back, we're talking that MBDA is going to get it done. And so we are very, very fortunate to have leaders like Deputy Secretary Adeyemo who are willing to do the work, the hard work in the Department of Treasury, but also willing to do the work across agencies to make sure that communities like the ones you all live and come from have an opportunity. That's intention, that's equity. That's what the President is always talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Deputy Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Wally Adeyemo.
It is so good to be with you today. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you all for having me. Let me start by saying good afternoon. And I want to especially thank National Agency for hosting and for your incredible partnership with the Treasury Department over the past 7 years. As we work to face what is the unprecedented challenges of the global pandemic and its complex and desperate impacts on communities like your own. You not only help us identify and understand the impact within your community, but you've also helped us think through how we can grow the economy both here in the United States but globally as well.
And I want to let you know that President Biden and Vice President Harris's commitment to improve economic equity has run through the administration's economic strategy and the actions that we've taken since day one that you've experienced. And I want to spend the bulk of my time with you today talking about everything we've done together to add more than 12 million jobs, which is a historic number, as well as create opportunities for more than 10 million Americans to file applications to start new businesses over the last 2 years, which is more than at any other time in our history. But I need to start by making clear that the single greatest threat to the progress the American economy has made since the pandemic is Congress's failure to take action to meet the United States obligations and to prevent default. Private sector forecasters have made clear that failure to lift the debt limit would lead to a recession, hurting small businesses around the country and leading to millions of jobs being lost. That's why we think it's essential that Congress must take actions to raise the debt limit and to do what is needed to protect families and small businesses, as it has done nearly 80 times before. It is the only way to maintain the economic progress we've made together in this country. That momentum, as you all recall from just a few years ago, wasn't guaranteed. 2-3 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to be in this room because we would have been locked in our homes, afraid of a global pandemic that was wreaking havoc over people's lives and over our economy. But the momentum started with the President's first signature legislative achievement when it came to the economy, which was the American Rescue Plan. As Treasury implemented the benefits and programs totaling more than $1 trillion, we took steps to ensure members of your community and other communities of color would be able to access critical economic aid. For example, we made linguistically accessible outreach and support a key component of our implementation of all of our programs, including the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which along with the administration's other housing policies has helped prevent millions of evictions. We also work to ensure that people and institutions in this community were well positioned to participate in and benefit from our programs through consistent targeted outreach. And what I can say, what you know to be true, is we didn't always get it right in the beginning when some of these programs started during the pandemic. But one of the commitments that President Biden made was to make sure that these programs got better as he took office, and that's exactly what we did. But we did it in partnership with you because we listened to your community, we listened to your leaders. We made sure that the National ACE was and will continue to be an essential partner as we do this work. 1 year ago, as in that spirit of learning and communication, I visited Los Angeles and sat across the table from a group of hard-working small business owners convened by National ACE, where I was able to share the actions we had taken, but also to hear from them what we needed to do going forward. And that listening and hearing piece is a critical part of what we consider equity, because the only way that we can build programs that work for your community and all communities is to hear from them directly. Partnerships like yours are vital to ensuring communities are able to take advantage of the programs that we design. So again, I want to say thank you. And just a few months ago, President Biden reiterated this administration's commitment to supporting your community through the release of the first ever national strategy to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Island communities. This strategy builds on the efforts we have made across the administration to truly invest in and unlock the potential of your community. Fortunately, our economy has recovered from the pandemic with more than 12 million jobs added since President Biden took office. After the 2 strongest years of job growth on record, the unemployment rate is the lowest it has been in over 50 years at 3.4%. I know that one of the things that everyone is doing is now trying to find ways to both encourage the building of their opportunity in their communities, and a big piece of that is going out and looking to build new businesses and thinking about the growth of the businesses in your community is a testament to the hard work and determination of the members of your communities, but also is a testament to the policy choices that we've made across the last 2 years. Going forward, we're focused on building lasting infrastructure to support small businesses and access to capital in our communities, so that people can pursue their ideas and build a better future for their families. I know that when I met with those small business owners in Los Angeles, and when I meet with small business owners throughout the country, the number one issue that raised with me is always access to capital. That's why we're excited about the state small business credit initiative, which the Undersecretary just mentioned, which provides a $10 billion program that allows capital to get to small businesses all over the country working through your states. SSBCI, as it's also called, is yet another example of our commitment to not only taking action to support your community and others, but to ensure the resources we provide actually reach them. The program includes $500 million in technical assistance funding to help small businesses build the capacity they need to take on new capital, to grow, and to thrive. And we look forward to working with your leaders as we design how some of that $500 million will be used in communities like your own. In implementing this program, the Treasury also created a new system designed to better track and report the demographics of the business owners that receive financing through SSBCI, including disaggregating AANHPI business owners so we can better understand whether we're meeting our aspirations to reach underserved businesses in your community as well. We see these historic equity measures as an important accountability tool to hold us accountable for the commitments we make to your community. Investments in small business have not been limited to Treasury or to our pandemic recovery programs. Across the Biden administration, we've been focused on deploying capital to support small business through a variety of channels. The Small Business Administration, for example, has distributed more than $16 billion to Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Island business owners and entrepreneurs through several programs, and is continuing its efforts to make capital available to communities that need it most. The financing programs offered by Treasury and SBA will help ensure small businesses have the capital they need to tap into the green economy and access the opportunities created by the landmark legislation that has passed over the last several years. In addition to identifying opportunities to improve economic opportunity, we've also focused on how we can improve equity in the system and institutions we oversee at the federal level. This is especially true when it comes to languages. It is critical that the benefits and services we provide be delivered in a way that is accessible to all communities, especially those that may face linguistic barriers. We're in the midst of a historical transformation of the IRS. As yesterday you may have heard that we are introducing new tools to help taxpayers be able to freely interact with the IRS in filing their taxes. But what we know is that in order for these tools and for the IRS to be more accessible to the American people, we need to make sure that we are providing those services in the language that people are the most comfortable in. That's why the IRS is focused on improving its linguistic services. Today we offer services in more than 20 languages, including Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Punjab, and many others. Our goal is to continue to expand these services so that all Americans feel comfortable interacting with the IRS in a way that helps them most. But in addition to offering these services over the phone, we're focused on making sure that we're providing in-person services as well to individuals in the communities where you live. Because we know ultimately for busy small business owners, for busy individuals, the key is that they need to have access to the information they need in the language they want, online, in person, and on the phone in order to help them do what they want to do, which is make sure that they meet their commitments to this country as well. And we're already seeing the benefits of this in terms of the ability for taxpayers to file more easily and for people to get the information they need, not only to file their taxes, but get access to benefits like the R&D tax credit, which is eligible to small businesses going forward. As I close, I'd be remiss if I did not thank your leader, your president and CEO, who's a member of the Treasury Advisory Committee on Racial Equity. I want to make very clear that you have a strong advocate for your community, President Tom, who has served as a member of that community and been a true advisor to me in terms of thinking about what we can do as an administration and as a country to meet our commitments to all Americans, including the members of your community. And what I want to say is that what we are doing is we are making progress. We want to make progress more quickly, but we know the only way that we can do that is by directly engaging with your community. And that's why I'm here today. That's why the Secretary and I are engaging with you, because we know that the only way the American economy can succeed is if we invest in the people in America, including the people in your community who make our economy so strong. So let me close the way I began by saying a word of thanks to you and to your leadership and your community, and make very clear to you that we look forward to continuing to be your partner on the days, the weeks, the months, and the years to come. Thank you so much for having me.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to introduce the moderator and the panel of the members of our next panel. I'm welcoming to the stage a social impact officer at Alroca Entertainment. That is Susan Jenny Davis. We're the head of civil rights policy at Google, Ray Mahar. Okay, that's Ray Mahar, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the stage. Senior Vice President and General Manager of Supermicro, Ray Mahar. And co-founder and CEO of Case Technologies Inc., CLTM.
Thank you. So welcome to the final panel of the day. If you stay, you can eat. Okay? You stay, you can eat. You cannot eat if you don't stay. I'm Susan Jen Davis. I'm really honored to be the moderator of this very important panel on how to stay competitive in the digital world. We are not just in a digital revolution. We are just over our head with the digital revolution. It occurred to me as I was preparing for this panel that I even unwind and unplug digitally. I stream music on my phone, or I binge on my smart TV. I order food on my phone. I use my digital key to get in and out of my apartment after I get my food. And then I do a selfie and I post it on Instagram saying, look at how I'm relaxing. A day in my life. The point is that we can't get away from digital experiences today. And so what this panel will go through is how can you unleash that digital technology and succeed in this world, particularly if you are from underrepresented communities and marginalized communities where access is a real issue, or you simply are a small business owner that needs to prioritize how you use your limited resources. So let me begin with CL. So amidst all this digitization, please tell us, because you are a co-founder of your second company, by the way, congratulations, FIEX, and tell us about some best practices that you have seen work in terms of the adoption of digital technologies. Question one, because we've got to go fast here. Question two is, do you gotta go fully digital as a business? Or are there some, God forbid, human aspects of running a business that we ought to retain in order to be successful in this new digital world?
Yeah, so great questions. I'll try and remember two. But just to give you context, so FIEX, we're at the intersection of medical device manufacturing and advanced materials. So what the heck does that mean? That means we make packaging materials that are sterilized, life-saving medical devices. And so every bit of our business is as physical as we can get. We make physical product with our partners, manufacturing partners around the US. We have a team of scientists and engineers that collaborate. And we also work with customers who implement our physical product in their manufacturing line with their team. So you would think that we were the last candidate to be a digital business. But actually, contrary to that, as a leader of an emerging company, digital is exactly what is making us so competitive. Since we were founded 3 years ago, all of our business now is inbound. Half of our customers are publicly traded companies. We are a completely remote team across multiple states, which is unusual for our industry, advanced materials and medical device. And so really the high level, the way we think about it is, digital and these tools and AI, they're meant to help us do our business and to supply our customers better. They're not here to replace the talent in my organization. And so in that technology, we use AI, we use CRM, we use integration to reduce the amount of redundant, repetitive work that our team has to do. And it enables us to do creative work that, frankly, right now with technology, we cannot replace. And so, you're not boiling the ocean as a small business. You're looking for that inch of advantage, and that's where we see the digital has been so critical for us to compete with some of the largest health businesses.
Thank you, CL. So digital enhances what we already do and helps us be more efficient, but isn't a replacement for that human element of touching customers and touching our communities. Thanks very much. Hoda, let's go to you. So with all of this digitization that's going on and all of the data that we are willingly and unwillingly sharing, there is this issue of how we manage data that we're getting by virtue of this digital world and the privacy considerations around the consumer data that we also have our hands on. So can you talk a little bit about how can small businesses do better to protect the privacy of their consumers and to manage data? And then the second question would be, what are some of the things we need to be careful about? What are some of the things we should be worried about as we manage all of this information?
That's a great question. Thank you, Susan. And I understand that part of the summit tomorrow, there will be a Hill Advocacy Day. And so I will leave you with this. And it's a charge. One of the things small business, medium-sized business owners care deeply about the privacy of their customers, of their consumers. And I think one of the challenges that business owners face today is the fact that we do not have a federal data privacy law. And I think something that exacerbates that issue is that there is a patchwork of states that have then filled the gap to provide their own versions of what data privacy laws look like. And so I think that small and medium-sized business owners, they tend to take the brunt of not necessarily having the resources to understand and be compliant and to be up to date with all of the privacy laws that are coming up on a state-by-state level. It would make it much easier if we could have a national data privacy law. And so, as you think about going to the Hill tomorrow, as you think about one of your advocacy asks and something that could make your businesses more efficient, run smoother, and also remain within compliance of law, is really pushing for the federal data privacy law. Small and medium-sized business owners, they don't necessarily have the time, the expertise, or like I said, the additional resources to be able to go through what could potentially be years and years of litigation and not being in compliance with these laws. And so, it's something that I don't think SMBs really think about first and foremost, right? It's access to capital, it's access to opportunity, it's building the brick and mortar and also having the presence in the digital space. But this is becoming increasingly important, and it's something that we want to push for SMBs to also think about.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And so what you're really saying is get to know your local and your state laws and policies on data and privacy. Maybe use your local chamber as a resource for you to understand what those rules are, but be very cautious because your enterprise could be in trouble for violations of these very serious laws.
Absolutely. And I would say that your voice is incredibly important on Capitol Hill. Your member wants to hear from you. You are an important constituent to that. And so having your voice in this debate is really critical. And so pushing for that federal data privacy law so that we can get rid of this patchwork sort of state filling the void situation that we currently have would be important.
That's great. How many of you are going on the Hill tomorrow? Raise your hand. Should be everybody. Not enough. More. The point is you have an opportunity to speak directly to legislators and to their offices tomorrow. So Ray, let's go to you. There are so many technologies, so many applications out there. A small business is looking at this sea of opportunity and saying, how do I prioritize? How do I decide what technology makes sense for me? And now there's this amazing amount of AI that is being talked about and available. And small business owners may be wondering, how does that work for me? Do I use it for customer service? Do I use it for marketing? Do I use it for content development? How do I use it? How do I get it? So Ray, can you tell us, as an executive with a lot of experience in technology, in IT, where do we start as a small business to be able to understand what to use and what's best for our businesses?
Sure, thank you for that. First and foremost, I want to start by saying Happy Heritage Month to all the Asian Americans and Hawaiians, and as well as the Pacific Islanders. And thank you for all your contributions to the community. So going to your question is, everyone in the small businesses assumes that AI is this massive expense of infrastructure costs that is associated to implement AI. That's really not the case, right? AI, you can ultimately use it in very small, specific projects to very large. We are working with major hyperscale customers and with Supermicro. We factor storage and servers and AI and machine learning products. And as a result of that, it could be hundreds of millions of dollars people are spending in training specific workloads to be able to address a specific project, right? And everything around AI is about productivity, efficiency, and making things simple. So as a small business, if you're not incorporating AI into your project, into your company, you're essentially missing out. The competitiveness you're losing as a result of that. So let me give you some examples. AI is not just by itself. There's a lot of different technology sectors that we enable with our products. 5G, cloud services, IoT, and AI. Examples of which is we are having equipment in all the kiosks in McDonald's, for example. All that information essentially when you enter your order and it goes immediately into the kitchen, and that data is now retrieved and then sent over to corporate into a data center, which all that information is being accessed to drive data and the analytics from that, essentially helping you as small businesses how to figure out what to do with that customer experience. We have smart city projects, and by the way, a third of our business, we started with 3 people, Asian Americans. 29 years later, we're going to be announcing something close to about $6.6 billion in sales end of fiscal June. So anything is possible. No funding, self-invested with 3 people. And it all happened with an idea to be able to invent the technology and innovation to make sure that they compete against the rest of the folks that were much bigger organizations to compete with. And today, we are heavily invested in AI. We make small boxes this big that has AI in it. Who is using it? Retail stores for fraud detection. They have a small box, it's fanless, very cheap, it has a GPU which does basically AI and machine learning. It's put into a closet in the back of the retail store, so no air conditioning, none of these big servers, and yet it is detecting based on the program you provided to detect the human interaction as far as when they walk into your store. And if they walk around too much, whatever that algorithm is, they look at that and they detect possibilities. So you don't have to hire 3 security guards. You can basically have detection. Please look out for that person, just in case.
So I love the fact that you're really talking about take a look at what your business is trying to achieve, and then find the technology that can meet that need. So whether it's security, whether it is that you want a chat box for your customer service needs, that it's really tailor-making that technology to suit whatever your business is, I think is what you're saying. The other thing is that since you are going on Hill, I know AI is very top of mind on Capitol Hill. In case you didn't notice, I mean, Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, was just testifying before the Judiciary Committee yesterday about, and this was a shocking thing, that he was saying, asking for the government to get involved in regulating AI because of some of the downsides of technology. So as you go on the Hill, keep in mind that that is top of mind with the people you're working with. Talk about how those kinds of technologies fuel your businesses and how you want the government to allow that innovation to happen, even though there are concerns about, the downsides of technology. And give examples of how your business can benefit from technology. That is the other purpose of those Hill meetings, is you are informing and teaching legislators about things that they can incorporate into policy. So it's really important that you talk to them about that. Now, Hoda, one more thing that I wanted to talk about is that our community, the AANHPI community, is very broad, has dozens of ethnicities. And we have many different members of our community are very disenfranchised and have suffer from great access, lack of access. So in your work at Google, can you talk about how technology can be a way in which we can actually fuel and include those that are marginalized in our society? And the NHPI community, for example, we don't want to forget that we have members of our own community that need to get
I think, you know, so I'm part of the civil rights team at Google, and one of the things that we're charged with and that we think about daily is how do we engage the civil rights community, communities who have historically been marginalized, underrepresented, have had, you know, not the greatest stories when it comes to access to resources and access to opportunities. And so that's why we're so very grateful for the partnership with National ACE, led by the amazing President Joan Togman. And I think, you know, one of the things that we think about when we engage our stakeholders, when we engage these partners, is the fact that they are informing us of not only the challenges that the diversity of all of these communities face, but I think also leaning into the opportunities. And so one of the things that we were able to do with National ACE last year was an AAPI Strong initiative, where we were able to provide Nest cameras, the Google Nest cameras, to AAPI-owned businesses around the country as a matter of security, because we all know the ugly side of what we witnessed during the pandemic. And so for us, that was very important to be working with our partners to ensure that we're lifting all communities and that we're also being informed by the very communities themselves that are being impacted. In terms of resources and opportunities, I think, you know, one of the things that we have found, that we've learned internally, is that our products and our policies are better crafted, they're more efficient, they're better for our users, and they're better for us internally as Googlers when we do engage in diverse communities. And so one of the things we did last year was we made a public commitment to spend $2.5 billion working with diverse-owned businesses. And I'm very proud to say that we actually outspent that commitment. We ended up spending $2.8 billion with diverse businesses as suppliers. And so, you know, we're always looking for folks who are interested to check out the program. You can find it at google.com/supplier diversity. Google.com/supplier diversity.
Write this down, write this down.
And if you're interested in engaging the company as a contractor, again, it's good business for small and medium-sized businesses, but also at the end of the day, for us, selfishly, it makes our products and our policies much better and much stronger because it's informed. I mean, we've heard all day from government officials about a whole of government approach. We think about this as a whole of society approach. How can we engage our stakeholders? How can we continue to have these types of conversations to talk about the resources that we can provide and at the same time be informed by their experiences?
And I love the fact that the Googlers, I'm going to start using that term, the Googlers aren't forgetting about our community because oftentimes, because of the model minority myth and because of a lack of information about who we are, there is a myth that we don't need help and we are often left out of the conversation. So we love that your billions are also flowing to our communities. Now it's up to us to actually try to get them. So thank you for that. Now, my final question before the king comes on and I get yanked off the stage. So CL and Ray, I'll direct both of you, but feel free to jump in, is we are really fortunate to be in this convening here at Commerce, convened by National ACE. We have National ACE, we have ACE Next Gen, we have all these resources. Small businesses can take advantage of these resources to collaborate, to network, to get business, to get information, to get access to services. So I'll start with CL. You're former president of Boston's ACE Next Gen chapter. I'm a big fan of ACE Next Gen. Tell us a little bit about how small businesses can take advantage of the resources that come from ACE and ACE Next Gen and anywhere else.
You know, what we saw as small businesses on the ground is actually that there is so many resources that are now starting to be driven into our community. And the gap is how do you make sure that you put your business in line? And so one of the great benefits of being part of ACE Next Gen now as a participant company is the fact that we have these CEO groups where we get together and it's an avenue to address these questions of, okay, what are you doing? What's under the hood there in digital, right? How are you using AI? One of the things that we've been able to do is to cut weeks off of our onboarding time by giving our new team members access to GPT and now BART. to say, okay, well, you're just getting flooded with information. Some of it you can start to ask and self-educate, a guided discovery, and then we can help you with the 30 to 20% remaining specific for business. That's huge in getting people to be self-sufficient. It also enables us to really focus our time on what is most impactful, right? So CEO groups like that, and just being around the community. When we first started, when I first launched this company, some of our first investors came out of the AANHPI entrepreneur community that said, we want to fund businesses who come from our community, and we're so pivotal. So getting involved in building that relationship. I know we're talking a lot about digital. Digital has not, and for the foreseeable future, will not replace the building of social capital that happens at events like this. So really grateful that National Space Next Gen, right, all these organizations are convening us to further these relationships. The world is small. We'll surely see each other multiple times in the coming years. And so it's been a great resource. Definitely check it out, especially if your ACE Next Gen is for millennial and the next generation of business owners. So definitely check it out.
I really like that. The capital is not just about money, it's about that human connection and network that we can use. Ray, a lot of people look up to you. A lot of people want to be you someday. So what words of wisdom do you have around how small businesses can either be you someday or maybe even get access to resources that you have found helpful in your journey?
Sure. So in my world, we spent a lot of time collaborating and partnering and doing a lot of workshops with a lot of our customers today. But when we started as a company, we essentially did what was the most influential for us to learn and be able to help the partners, which is the ecosystem of all of our suppliers and all of our partners. In this case, we partnered with the technology folks that understood exactly what was happening, partnering with them to help us grow. Now we're paying that back to the community. We have many workshops, lots of training, helping our small, medium businesses to be able to get that knowledge base, understand the different workloads and how these particular products and solutions are used in different areas so that they can learn from those lessons from us and be able to grow their businesses.
Thank you. And we're going to end the panel, this pre-eat panel, by having each panelist say this sentence, complete the sentence. Small businesses should. By the way, I didn't prepare one, because that's why none of them are saying great questions. But I'm going to start with you. Small businesses should.
Small businesses should be very excited about emerging technologies and all of the ways that they can enhance their businesses.
Right.
Small businesses should be innovative and agile, and don't be afraid to change technology, and don't be afraid to learn more and be able to do more.
It's very tactical. Small businesses and their owners should meet 2 or 3 other business owners and ask, what are you doing, and best practices for digital implementation.
Finally, small businesses should give back to the community and lend a hand to the next one up. Please thank all of my panelists. Enjoy the day.
Thank you everyone for coming so much. I'm Emily Peter with National ACE, and we do have lunch for you in the lobby. So please, you're on your way, continue going on your way, and enjoy.